Chapter 112. The Moon Empress looked at Qing Wu, who was kneeling on the ground, and raised her hand expressionlessly. The Fantasy V gold ring spine Gu let out a mournful wail when it was entangled by the silky moonlight. Even if the gold ring spine Gu was a diamond Fantasy V Fae, it couldn't even put up any resistance against the silk-like moonlight. He even wanted to let out a sorrowful cry, but the sound was completely stuck in his throat by the moonlight, and he couldn't spit out a single sound. Under the tranquil and beautiful moonlight hid the most merciless and sharp killing intent. The Moon Empress didn't give Qing Wu any chance to explain. However, when Qing Wu felt the state of the gold ring spine Gu, he felt a little distressed. He forcefully propped himself up and kowtowed repeatedly. "I beg the Moon Empress to spare my life. I, Qing Wu, am willing to serve the Moon Empress for the rest of my life." The Moon Empress' face was bone-chilling, but her voice was still gentle. However, her gentle voice revealed unreserved killing intent. The Moon Empress paused before continuing. "When you wanted to kill this Empress disciple, you should have known that those who kill will be killed. You're not worthy of obeying this consort's orders. Repent under this moonlight." When Qing Wu heard the Moon Empress' words, his eyes immediately turned sluggish. He even forgot to circulate his spirit chi for a moment. Under the moonlight, one of his arms disintegrated into nothingness. The Moon Empress didn't conceal the killing intent in her words, and Qing Wu knew that he couldn't escape this calamity. Qing Wu didn't expect that the kid he viewed as an ant was actually the Moon Empress' disciple. If it was some other relationship, he might be able to keep his life. He had just made a move on the Moon Empress disciple, and it was a lethal blow. Had it not been for the Moon Empress obstruction, Lin Yuan's spine would have been hollowed out by the gold ring spine Gu. At this thought, Qing Wu's heart turned to ashes. Just as Qing Wu felt like he was about to disappear under the moonlight, an emerald green bamboo leaf suddenly appeared and hovered above his head. The emerald green bamboo leaves emitted a bright green light, helping Qing Wu block the moonlight. But after a few seconds, under the dense moonlight, the bamboo leaf also gradually disappeared. Finally, after a few seconds, it also completely disappeared under the moonlight. A white-clothed middle-aged man holding an emerald green bamboo appeared beside Qing Wu. He kicked Qing Wu's body and sent him flying over a dozen meters away, allowing Qing Wu to leave the place with the densest moonlight. Shortly after, a man clad in crimson armor appeared beside Qing Wu. With a wave of his hand, he used his spiritual power to help Qing Wu resist the moonlight, which was not too dense. "Empress," the Empress quickly said. "Moon Empress, if the moonlight emitted by the cold moon lone will continue shining, Qing Wu will truly vanish. I hope that Moon Empress will reconsider." As he spoke, the crimson-armored man shot out another streak of spiritual chi, which landed on Qing Wu's body. The spiritual power circulated through Qing Wu's body for a while, but Qing Wu's injuries did not heal at all. A look of shock appeared on the red-armored man's face. He had long heard of the Moon Empress Cold Moon Lone Disk's incredible tactical characteristics. Wu might was and on he, and suddenly he, Wu Moon out, he and Moon. Qing Wu might be a pinnacle class 4 creation master, but his contracted Fey was only a source-type life form. Qing Wu's contracted gold ring spine Gu was able to enhance a creation master's abilities, but it wasn't proficient in combat. However, it was still a Diamond Fantasy V source-type life form. It couldn't resist the moonlight at all. The crimson-armored man's heart trembled at this thought. Although his combat ability was much stronger than Qin Wu's, he couldn't help but wonder how long he could withstand the moonlight and the cold moon hanging high in the sky. When the Moon Empress saw that someone had suddenly appeared to protect Qing Wu, she couldn't help but frown. Just as the Moon Empress was frowning, the moonlight that filled the sky faintly showed signs of boiling. At this moment, the man with the bamboo in his hand coughed and said, "Moon Empress, Qing Wu is a pinnacle class 4 creation master after all. Even if Qing Wu really offended the Moon Empress has already punished him. One of Qing Wu's hands is gone. So can you give this lord some face and spare Qing Wu's life?" As soon as the bamboo monarch finished speaking, he saw the Moon Empress expression and silently cursed. The Moon Empress' hands weaved the sky, and the moonlight shuttled back and forth in her hands, bringing with it the coldness of the moon. The Moon Empress sneered. "Give face to you, bamboo monarch? When did I, the Moon Empress, give face to others? Could it be that bamboo monarch wants your purple bamboo forest to have the same sun and moon in the sky for a month?" The Moon Empress' three questions caused the bamboo monarch to reveal a helpless expression. However, the bamboo monarch knew the Moon Empress' temper very well. It was probably impossible for the Moon Empress to spare Cheng Wu on his account. But even so, after the bamboo monarch glanced at Cheng Wu, he frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, "Every Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master is the Radiance Federation's wealth. Therefore, this Lord wishes to ask the Moon Empress to show mercy again." The Moon Empress said coldly, "The Radiance Federation's wealth? Since when could the Radiance Federation's wealth make a move on a young Class 2 Creation Master? This kind of wealth has already decayed." The bamboo monarch then looked at Lin Yuan, who was standing beside the Moon Empress. He looked at the bloodstains on Lin Yuan's body and the dark red blood on the ground. It was obvious that the blood hadn't dried up yet, and the blood was bright red. It was obvious that his internal organs had ruptured, causing him to vomit blood. The bamboo monarch used his peripheral vision to glance at Cheng Wu. The disgust in his eyes was self-evident as he spoke to Lin Yuan in a gentle voice. "This young friend, Cheng Wu, made a move on you, but the Moon Empress stopped him. How about I get Cheng Wu to compensate you with some spiritual ingredients and treasures? I will make the decision and resolve their hatred. He will not find trouble with you in the future." Lin Yuan was originally shocked that he actually saw the Class 5 Creation Master, the Bamboo Monarch. Two of the three Class 5 Creation Masters of the Radiance Federation had already appeared. However, when Lin Yuan heard the Bamboo Monarch's words, he felt as though he was bathing in the spring breeze. Addressing him as a young friend might sound cordial, but could Lin Yuan really reject such words? Before Lin Yuan could speak, the Moon Empress' hand radiated with brilliance as she clenched her fist. The Fantasy V Gold Ring Spine Gu was originally enveloped by the moonlight, but now, the moonlight suddenly surged and became restless. The restless moonlight sublimated the Diamond/Fantasy V Gold Ring Spine Gu into the air. It turned into an untraceable speck of dust. Can I understand that the Bamboo Monarch is making things difficult for this Empress disciple? When meat rots, worms emerge. When fish wither, caves appear. What is rotten must be removed. Don't tell me Mr. Bamboo is still thinking of making flowers bloom from rotten wood. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 113. When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress' words, he felt warmth in his heart. The Bamboo Monarch's words might be gentle, but they were unquestionable. A single statement from the Moon Empress had completely protected him. When the Bamboo Monarch found out that the youth standing beside the Moon Empress was the Moon Empress disciple, his face revealed a trace of astonishment. He smiled and said, "Congratulations to the Moon Empress for obtaining an outstanding disciple." At that moment, the Bamboo Monarch knew that it was useless no matter what he said. Cheng Wu's attack on the Moon Empress disciple was simply courting death. The Moon Empress had sublimated Cheng Wu's source-type life form, the Gold Ring Spine Gu, under the moonlight. The Bamboo Monarch didn't stop it. However, after the Gold Ring Spine Gu vanished, Cheng Wu's originally pale face turned even paler, and he was covered in fine cold sweat. The Gold Ring Spine Gu's death had caused Cheng Wu's spiritual energy to suffer severe damage. At that moment, Cheng Wu wasn't just suffering from physical injuries, but the damage to his spiritual energy was making him wish he was dead. At that moment, there was a charming voice that echoed from the sky. A masked, black-robed woman was stepping on the air and approaching. The Moon Empress sure has a good method to sublimate this Gold Ring Spine Gu. Cheng Wu only contracted this source-type life form in his entire life, and now that the Gold Ring Spine Gu is dead, I wonder if the Moon Empress' anger has subsided. The black-robed woman's face was covered, and her expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, she looked at the Moon Empress with a rather complicated expression. The Moon Empress lifted her head and looked at the black-robed woman with a complicated expression. Her expression didn't change. What does this Empress anger have to do with you? Why isn't the chief guard presiding over the spirit guards? Are you really free to come here? Lin Yuan lifted his head and looked at the sky. This black-robed woman was actually the chief guard of the spirit guards, and she was a top-notch expert. The black-robed woman was already standing beside the bamboo monarch and said, "Moon Empress, this punishment is enough. It is no longer the time when you were young. You are already a Class 5 creation master and the Radiance Federation's pillar. You have to be fair with rewards and punishments." Just as the black-robed woman finished speaking, an intense spirit-chi fluctuation came. The golden-armored middle-aged man was already standing next to the crimson-armored man. He walked past the crimson-armored man and picked up Cheng Wu, who was lying on the ground. Chief Guard Yi is right. Cheng Wu is a Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master certified by the Creation Master Association. Even if he is in the wrong, he needs to be judged first before the reward and punishment can be decided. Now that the Moon Empress has already punished him, leave the rest to me. The red-armored man had already appeared in front of the bamboo monarch in a flash. He hurriedly distanced himself from the golden-armored man and cursed inwardly. Why is Iron Prison here? Since he dared to speak to the Moon Empress in this manner, wasn't he just asking for trouble? With Iron Prison's way of doing things, he would probably be too rigid and easy to break after encountering the moon. The red-armored man glanced at Bamboo Monarch and realized that Bamboo Monarch's expression wasn't good when he looked at Iron Prison. He did not know that the Bamboo Monarch was cursing in his heart. Iron Prison's way of doing things was so direct that there was no order to it at all. His straightforwardness could be said to be forceful, but if he were to use his forcefulness against the Moon Empress, then what was he if not an iron fool? The Moon Empress disciple had nearly been killed by Cheng Wu, and now that Iron Prison was here, he actually objected to the Moon Empress orders. Even he didn't dare to do so. Cheng Wu had also returned to his senses and recalled that he was still an esteemed Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master, and he was still very useful to the Radiance Federation. Thinking of this, Cheng Wu's heart lit up, and he looked at the golden-armored man who was grabbing him. "Lord Iron Prison, please save me." Then he turned to look at the Moon Empress. "Moon Empress, Cheng Wu, know my mistake. I am willing to offer all my wealth to your disciple. I only beg you to spare my life." When Iron Prison heard Cheng Wu shout out to save him, his expression turned ugly. Although Iron Prison didn't know how to be flexible, he understood that this would make it seem like he was standing on the opposite side of the Moon Empress. However, Iron Prison did not throw Cheng Wu away. Instead, he continued with a cold expression. "The Moon Empress has already punished him. The reward and punishment must be clear." The Moon Empress sneered and stood in the air. The dense moonlight seemed to have turned into a solid substance as it swept at Iron Prison. "This Empress is the Moon Empress, so the reward for Cheng Wu is also a punishment, and the punishment is also a reward. How can there be a clear reward and punishment? Since you want to take Cheng Wu away, let's see if you, Iron Prison, have the ability to do so." Wherever the Moon Empress moonlight swept, there would be moonlight ripples. It was extremely beautiful, but everyone who saw it had a stern expression. At this moment, Iron Prison suddenly mobilized his mental strength. As he mobilized his mental strength, a prehistoric dragon beast that was about 40 meters long appeared on the ground. The dragon beast spat out energy in preparation to defend against the incoming moonlight. When the Moon Empress saw that Iron Prison had summoned a fae, her eyes flashed with a cold light. At the same time, the bright moon in the sky suddenly shone brightly. The moonlight rippled like water, and within the rippling light, a barefooted young lady wearing a dress made of cold moonlight suddenly appeared. She was walking down from the moon step by step. The young lady's long hair was the extremely dense moonlight. Her beautiful face had a 70% resemblance to the Moon Empress. The instant the young lady walked down from the moon, there seemed to be a group of twinkling stars hidden in the moonlight. In an instant, the 40-meter-long prehistoric dragon beast let out a mournful cry and was thrown far away. At that moment, the Bamboo Monarch and the black-robed, masked woman each released a stream of energy. They helped the prehistoric dragon beast to block the moonlight's attack. The bamboo monarch looked at the Moon Empress and spoke with shock and surprise. Moon Empress, your cold moon lone disk has reached Myth 2. The scarlet-armored man beside the bamboo monarch looked at the young lady who walked out of the moonlight, and his eyes flickered. Myth 2, a fae turning into a human. This also meant that when a fae reached Myth 2, it would be able to turn into a human. The Moon Empress stood in the sky and sneered. Bamboo monarch, you old thing, your Point Inc. Imperial bamboo was already a myth breed a few decades ago. This Empress doesn't believe that the Point Inc. Imperial bamboo hasn't reached Myth 2 in the past few decades. The Moon Empress looked at the bamboo monarch and the black-robed, masked woman. Since you want to make a move against me, this Empress won't be polite. This Empress hasn't appeared for 10 years, and even my old friends don't respect this Empress. After speaking, the Moon Empress lifted her shoulder. The eyes of the little white rabbit that was nibbling on the carrot instantly turned purple, and the fur on its body was about to turn purple. At that moment, a voice suddenly echoed from the sky, and it sounded rather urgent. A man with a smiling face was anxiously shouting at the Moon Empress. Moon Empress, have you forgotten about the incident 10 years ago? You have been in seclusion for the past 10 years. Isn't it because you can't forget that incident 10 years ago? The voice was very urgent. When the Moon Empress heard this, her expression froze, and she remained silent for a moment. With a wave of her hand, the lone moon in the sky instantly vanished, and the noon sun became as dazzling as usual. The Moon Empress turned around and pulled Lin Yuan to soar into the sky. Without looking at the people behind her, her cold voice echoed faintly. Cheng Wu plotted to murder this Empress disciple, the Radiance Federation's Class 2 creation master, Lin Yuan. He deserves death for his crime. Since you are using the incident 10 years ago to poke at this Empress' sore spot, Cheng Wu shall be imprisoned in the sin-cleansing pond. After pausing for 3 seconds, the Moon Empress continued speaking. You won't come out unless you die. This is this Empress' greatest leniency. Baidu immediately read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 114. After the Moon Empress brought Lin Yuan back to the Radiant Moon Palace, she carefully checked on his injuries and said with concern, "It's my fault. When you went out, I didn't even think of letting anyone follow you and gave you a fright. But it's also good. This matter will teach you something that I don't know how to teach you." The Moon Empress paused for a moment and looked into Lin Yuan's eyes seriously. In this world, all worldly possessions are not as good as one's strength. Lin Yuan nodded after hearing the Moon Empress' words. At that moment, Lin Yuan looked at the Moon Empress with a completely different gaze. Although Lin Yuan knew that he wanted to recognize the Moon Empress as his master, he was still in the process of adapting. After all, the establishment of an unfamiliar relationship could never be completed overnight. But now, when Cheng Wu tried to kill him, he had no room to retaliate. It was the Moon Empress Moonlight that saved him and protected him among the current world's absolute experts. If it wasn't for him, why would the Moon Empress make things difficult for Cheng Wu? Why would there be this gathering of the current world's experts? It was an indescribable feeling of being touched. A sour feeling of facing the world since he was 8 years old and seeing the truth of the world, but suddenly being protected in a crisis arose spontaneously. Lin Yuan had nowhere to vent this feeling and could only suppress it at the bottom of his heart. The unfamiliar word, master, was suddenly engraved in Lin Yuan's life in the past 18 years. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan looking at her, she frowned and looked at him with concern. It's true that I will be frightened when I encounter this for the first time, but it won't happen again. I still have master. The corners of Lin Yuan's eyes were sour, but it was very dry and wouldn't flow out. His eyes were dry, but the warmth in his heart didn't lessen. Lin Yuan pursed his lips for a long time. He wanted to open his mouth but couldn't make a sound. After a while, he said, "I'm not afraid anymore. I know that in this world, one's own strength will always be the foundation for one's survival." The Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan had recovered so quickly and nodded with satisfaction. Lin Yuan was thinking about the unforeseen event that many experts vaguely mentioned 10 years ago. However, it was impossible to find such information on StarWeb that involved top-notch experts. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw the Moon Empress handing over a box. There were 3 crests in the box, and they were the same crests that Lin Yuan had obtained after passing the Class 2 Creation Master exam. It was just that each badge had a crescent moon engraved with exceptionally exquisite runes on it. Lin Yuan received the box from the Moon Empress. Then, he looked at the Moon Empress and addressed her as Master. The Moon Empress' cold face revealed a smile. Then, he handed Lin Yuan a token that was warm to the touch and as white as jade. 2 crescent moons were engraved on the jade tablet. The upper and lower crescent moons were intertwined, giving off an ancient vibe. This is the Radiant Moon token. Previously, you rejected me every time I tried to give you something. Now that you've gone through the apprenticeship ceremony, I don't know what to give you. Take this Radiant Moon token. If you need any spiritual materials, you can take this Radiant Moon token and choose from the Radiant Moon Palace's spiritual material warehouse. Lin Yuan solemnly received the Radiant Moon token from the Moon Empress. After experiencing this unforeseen event, Lin Yuan's mentality was already different. Before he had been assassinated by Cheng Wu, he had been thinking of relying on his own efforts to walk down the path one step at a time. Lin Yuan might still be thinking like this, but his mind was more flexible. Previously, he had been obsessed with relying on his own strength to collect spiritual materials, and it was indeed right. Now that he had gone through the apprenticeship ceremony, the Moon Empress was his rightful master. Lin Yuan knew that his greatest difficulty now was the collection of spiritual materials, which was why his phase had yet to evolve to legend. As a result, Lin Yuan had 3 willpower runes, but he had nowhere to use them. It was especially so for the Jasmine Lily, which was already at Bronze X/Epic. It was just lacking a few spiritual materials to evolve to legend. After fusing with the willpower rune comprehended in the mountains and rivers, it would evolve into a fantasy breed. That way, Lin Yuan would be able to possess a fantasy breed Fey at Bronze. Previously, Ling Xiao mentioned that the earlier a Fey evolved into a fantasy breed, the greater its potential. Therefore, Lin Yuan was very ambitious and wanted to evolve Red Thorn from Bronze to Legend. Once Red Thorn reached Legend, it would fuse with the willpower rune comprehended in the Murderous Intent and become a fantasy breed. The 3rd willpower rune was the one that Lin Yuan had comprehended while observing the day and night. Although this willpower rune was somewhat compatible with Chimey, it was more or less lacking in meaning. Chimey's exclusive skill, Clear Sky, was the power of the sun. However, this willpower rune alternated day and night, so Lin Yuan decided to use it for another purpose. Lin Yuan could still contract a Fey or an origin life form that had an extremely low spiritual energy requirement. Until now, Lin Yuan had not been in a hurry to form a contract. If there was a suitable Fey that was suitable for comprehending the willpower rune during the alternation of day and night, Lin Yuan did not mind having one more Fey. After being attacked by Cheng Wu, Lin Yuan had long regarded increasing his strength as the most important thing. It was not difficult for Lin Yuan to increase his strength, and he just needed time. Therefore, Lin Yuan had already adjusted his previous plan in his heart. For the next year, Lin Yuan had already set his goal on increasing his strength. With the Radiant Moon Palace's spiritual ingredients, Lin Yuan believed that he would definitely have a metamorphosis during this year. When the Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan did not reject and accepted the Radiant Moon token, she was very happy. Go and have a good rest for 2 days. Your physical injuries might have recovered, but if there is any mental discomfort, tell me. As a teacher, the Moon Empress knew that there were some things that she was unable to teach. For example, the first kill or escape after being killed for the first time. These mental changes required the spirit chi professional to overcome on their own, and the teacher could only guide them. After leaving the Moon Empress inner palace, Lin Yuan returned to his pavilion. Lin Yuan sat on the chair, and his mind was still thinking about the gold ring spine goo that flew at his neck like lightning. However, Lin Yuan was not timid and only had courage. This experience would invisibly spur Lin Yuan on and let him know that he had to work hard to become stronger. Lin Yuan entered Morbius Spirit Lock Spatial Zone and checked on Red Thorn, Genius, and Xianxia's condition. After realizing that red thorn, Genius, and Xianxia were in good condition, Lin Yuan was finally at ease. Red thorn's vines that had been severed by the spine goo had also grown out. But at this moment, Lin Yuan suddenly realized that after this battle, red thorn's quality had evolved from flawless to epic. He had also reached elite level 9. Lin Yuan's heart was filled with joy. Red thorn's quality increase might be related to the previous battle, but it was mostly because of the sumptuous meat in the diamond phase storage box. Red thorn relied on devouring to evolve. With a large amount of energy from the meat, Lin Yuan believed that red thorn would be able to evolve to bronze grade in 1 or 2 days. It would welcome red thorn's first exclusive skill. At that time, red thorn would also undergo its first true metamorphosis as a source-type life form. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 115. This time, Lin Yuan didn't recall Genius and Xianxia into the spiritual spatial zone. He didn't place Genius and Xianxia in the pavilion either. Instead, he left it in the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan placed the platinum cane loofah and celery vine on the table in the spirit lock spatial zone. In the spirit lock spatial zone, the ordinary wooden table had been soaked in spirit qi that was 10 times higher than the outside world, and it had slowly turned into a jade-like texture and looked very exquisite. Lin Yuan couldn't help but think of putting more wood in the spirit lock spatial zone. After a long time, wood would turn into a jade-like texture. Although jade-like wood didn't have any use, it was very rare. Coupled with its exquisite appearance, it caused its price to be high. In particular, jade-like wood furniture was considered a kind of luxury item. When Genius and Xianxia were hungry, it could casually eat the platinum cane loofah and celery vine on the table. After experiencing the battle and seeing Lin Yuan vomiting blood, Genius and Xianxia obediently stuck to Lin Yuan's body. Every minute or two, Xianxia would chirp and stand on Lin Yuan's ear, asking him to guarantee that it was fine before it could be at ease. Genius squatted on Lin Yuan's shoulder and said, "Lin Yuan, you scared me to death." "Lin Yuan scared me to death. I'm useless. I don't have any combat ability." Lin Yuan quickly rubbed Genius' head until it let out a comfortable grunt. Lin Yuan then said, "Don't worry." Lin Yuan then said, "If it wasn't for your tool transformation glasses that allowed me to dodge that chi force at the crucial moment, I might not have been able to get up during the first wave of attacks. Genius is great." After hearing Lin Yuan's words, Genius meowed a few times and climbed onto the table, found a comfortable position, and fell into a deep sleep. When Xianxia heard Lin Yuan praising Genius, it chirped and flew to Lin Yuan's ear. Lin Yuan snappily smiled and plucked a piece of celery vine's leaf to feed it. Xianxia's sound thrust is great too. If it wasn't for it, Cheng Rui wouldn't have been injured. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's praise, Xianxia happily ate the celery vine's leaf that was torn into small pieces. After eating and drinking its fill, it flew to Genius' head in satisfaction and nestled in its fur before falling asleep. The previous battle had consumed a lot of Genius and Xianxia's mental energy, and the easiest way to recover from such mental energy consumption was to have a good sleep. As for the wind speed rapid antelope that had just been promoted to gold, it was already listed in the Star Web store. There were plenty of people who came to ask for the price, and there were also plenty of people who offered high prices. However, Lin Yuan did not make a move. He walked to the water tank next to the spirit pool and found that many of the 5 fortune ranch's eggs had hatched. Small fishes that were less than half a centimeter long swam back and forth in the tank. When the spirit siphon goldfish had sufficient spirit qi, they didn't need to consume food. However, Lin Yuan still shifted the first batch of hatchlings into another water tank. The vision of the young fishes was very poor, and with the rapid growth of the dense spirit qi in the spirit lock spatial zone, it was very likely that the young fishes would eat the eggs that had yet to hatch. Many normal-grade spirit siphon goldfish in the spirit pool had already evolved into elite-grade spirit siphon goldfish. However, these spirit siphon goldfish only dared to swim around the edge of the spirit pool. Only his contracted spirit gather goldfish, Blackie, could enjoy the vast waters in the middle of the spirit pool. From time to time, he would lower his head to pick up a butterfly shell from the bottom of the pond and swallow it into his stomach. He was very relaxed. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan saw a very interesting scene. Blackie was swimming towards the side of the pool with a butterfly shell in its mouth. With a swing of its tail, it pushed away the elite-grade spirit siphon goldfish on both sides, leaving only the female 5 fortune ranches. Blackie spat out the butterfly shell from its mouth to the side of the female 5 fortune ranches. After watching the female 5 fortune ranches carefully eat the butterfly shell, Blackie then turned its head proudly and returned to the middle of the pool to swim. After the female 5 fortune ranches ate the butterfly shell, it carefully swam towards the middle of the pool. Blackie didn't bother about the female 5 fortune ranches, but when the other elite-grade spirit siphon goldfish swam over, it would mercilessly swing its tail at them. Lin Yuan couldn't help but be flabbergasted, and he couldn't help but recall the adulterous couple when he was picking up the bottle caps. Lin Yuan suddenly felt that his fae had fed him a mouthful of dog food, and he chanted in his heart. Lin Yuan thought in his heart, animals have feelings too, and animals have love too. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard an extremely subtle sound. Lin Yuan turned around and noticed that the blue flash butterfly's cocoon on the table had already cracked open slightly, and a newborn blue flash butterfly was trying its best to crawl out of the cocoon. The newborn blue flash butterfly's wings were still very weak, and they were wrinkled together and couldn't be extended at all. Lin Yuan walked over at that moment, but he didn't do anything. The butterfly spreading wings was the first hurdle in a butterfly's life, and it was also the most difficult hurdle. Many butterflies couldn't surpass this hurdle. However, when this hurdle was truly crossed, there would be no more obstacles for the rest of their life, and they would be able to soar gracefully under the blue sky. When this blue flash butterfly's wings were fully extended, Lin Yuan was stunned. This blue flash butterfly's wings weren't blue, but purple. Lin Yuan was flabbergasted. Without hesitation, he used Morbius' exclusive skill, Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, to bind this purple-winged blue flash butterfly as the spirit-locked fae in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Even after forming the contract with this blue flash butterfly, Lin Yuan still hadn't come back to his senses. I can't be so lucky to form a contract with the blue flash purple butterfly, which is almost impossible to appear in the blue flash butterfly race, right? The blue flash purple butterfly was a type of blue flash butterfly, or it could be said that the blue flash butterfly was the most orthodox existence. When it was just born, it would undergo an atavism evolution in the butterfly cocoon, awakening the perfect template of the Lepidoptera, one of the 4 major insecti. The blue flash purple butterfly was truly too rare, so rare that it only existed in ancient documents before the Spirit Chi awakening. Most people treated the blue flash purple butterfly as a fae that didn't exist. In the Fae beauty pageant, the blue flash purple butterfly was called a fantasy breed that wasn't a fantasy breed. The blue flash butterfly's evolved form, the blue flash goddess butterfly, had once reached the first place of the Fae beauty pageant because of the blue flash purple butterfly's legend. However, the competition authorities weren't sure if the blue flash purple butterfly truly existed. Just based on ancient documents, it was impossible to prove the blue flash purple butterfly's existence. Therefore, the blue flash purple-winged goddess butterfly's ultimate beauty wasn't recorded in the blue flash goddess butterfly's ranking. Otherwise, the blue flash goddess butterfly wouldn't have fallen out of the top 3 because its abilities weren't strong outside of normal. When Lin Yuan looked at the blue flash purple butterfly and checked its true data, he couldn't help but slap his forehead. It was indeed worthy of being a fae that had undergone a perfect Lepidoptera template evolution in the butterfly cocoon. The normal blue flash purple butterfly's initial ability, Silent Scale Powder, was different from the blue flash butterfly's initial ability, Silent Scale Powder. The blue flash butterfly's scale powder could be dispersed by natural environments like strong wind. It would even be washed away by the rainwater and wouldn't be able to use its silence effect. However, the blue flash purple butterfly's silent scale powder had the strongest characteristic of Lepidoptera's scale powder, which was its adhesion. After coming into contact with the target, the fine scale powder would embed into the target skin. Unless it was an incineration-type ability like blazing fire that could completely erase the scale powder with strong adhesion, it would be extremely difficult to disperse the scale powder with strong winds effect. At the same time, when the rainwater soaked the scale powder with adhesion, the scale powder would stick to the skin even more effectively. The blue flash purple butterfly was truly powerful. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh. From now on, the blue flash purple butterfly wasn't just a legend anymore. Lin Yuan had one in his hands. He wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 116. As the blue flash purple butterfly was a perfect variant of the blue flash butterfly, its abilities naturally couldn't escape the curse of the blue flash butterfly. It was still only powerful at normal, and the abilities after normal were still very useless. However, this didn't affect Lin Yuan at all. What Lin Yuan needed was the blue flash purple butterfly's normal initial ability. The blue flash purple butterfly's normal ability, Silent Scale Powder, had excellent adhesion, and such an ability was a divine ability among control abilities. If used properly, it could completely affect the battle situation and catch the opponent off guard. After contracting the blue flash purple butterfly, Lin Yuan started to pour spirit chi into the normal blue flash purple butterfly, which was only half the size of a palm. In less than an hour, the blue flash purple butterfly's body suddenly shook rapidly, sprinkling layers of glittering scale powder. Lin Yuan had already evolved the blue flash purple butterfly from a normal I/normal Fey to elite X/epic. Now Lin Yuan was evolving the blue flash purple butterfly toward bronze grade. The blue flash purple butterfly's shaking body suddenly emitted a pale purple halo. This purple color was very light, but it had an indescribable beauty. If it was turned into a word, it could only be described as indifferent purple. The flickering layers of scale powder on the blue flash purple butterfly's body instantly gushed out and formed a light illusion that was around half a meter in size. Lin Yuan's spirit chi had already broken through the blue flash purple butterfly's barrier. The blue flash purple butterfly had officially broken through to bronze grade. After the blue flash purple butterfly evolved into a bronze grade Fey, it flapped its wings and produced a bluish-purple shadow. It fanned out the scale powder that enveloped its body, and it was like a dream that had suddenly withered and shattered. A blue flash purple butterfly that was more than twice the size of the previous one flew out of the halo. It was even larger than a fist. It landed on Lin Yuan's shoulder. The butterfly on his shoulder was glowing purple, and it looked as though it had ascended to immortality. Lin Yuan was a straight man, and when he saw the bronze blue flash purple butterfly, he suddenly understood why beautiful Fays were so expensive and why people would scramble for them. Just a glance at it was a beautiful experience. The blue flash purple butterfly flapped its wings and danced around Lin Yuan intimately. Since the blue flash purple butterfly had reached epic when it was at elite, it naturally had 3 exclusive skills when it evolved to bronze. Lin Yuan looked at the exclusive skill. Hard Scale Powder. The scale powder is like fine metal powder. Rubbing against the scale powder may cause cuts on the surface of the scale powder. In Lin Yuan's opinion, this exclusive skill was of little value. The blue flash purple butterfly's silent scale powder needed to be very light so that it could spread quickly. However, not only would the hard scale powder not strengthen the control effect of the silent scale powder, but it would also affect the release and adhesion of the silent scale powder. The appearance of such an exclusive skill was the most lamentable. If the blue flash purple butterfly hadn't evolved from epic at elite, a rare Fey like the blue flash purple butterfly would have been ruined by this exclusive skill. This was also why so many spirit chi professionals wished for their Fays to reach epic quality before evolving from elite to bronze. After skipping the first exclusive skill, he continued to look at the second one. Flashing Wings increases the user's flying speed. Combined with the scale powder on the wings, the user's flying speed is extremely fast. This exclusive skill increased the blue flash purple butterfly's survivability. Logically speaking, it was a rather good ability for support-type Fays with control-type abilities, especially Fays like the blue flash purple butterfly that had almost no defense. It could greatly increase the tolerance for mistakes in combat. However, it was useless for Lin Yuan. The blue flash purple butterfly was Morbius spirit-locked Fey, and the Morbius bracelet was on Lin Yuan's hand. Therefore, when releasing the blue flash purple butterfly's ability, Lin Yuan could just raise his hand and release it. Summoning the blue flash purple butterfly to release the silent scale powder would increase the effect of the silent scale powder. However, the flashing wings was not very useful for the blue flash purple butterfly, which didn't need to appear every time it released its ability. Lin Yuan wanted to take a look at the third exclusive skill. If it was still not compatible, he could only choose the versatile flashing wings as the blue flash purple butterfly's exclusive skill. However, when Lin Yuan saw the third exclusive skill, he couldn't help but immediately put on a smile. Scale Powder Halo. Its scale powder has a powerful reflective effect. The multifaceted reflection of the scale powder will cause the target enveloped by the scale powder to suffer from optical pollution, causing dizziness or even temporary blindness. This ability might be a very useless exclusive skill for other Lepidoptera insects or even other butterfly phase. However, for Lin Yuan, who could only use the blue flash purple butterfly's basic abilities, the scale powder halo was a divine skill. This was because the scale powder halo directly enhanced the control effect of the basic ability, silent scale powder. When the silent scale powder was scattered, the halo would produce a powerful illusory light through optical pollution, causing dizziness or temporary blindness to the target. This exclusive skill allowed the silent scale powder to achieve a kind of dual control. At the same time, the scale powder halo's characteristic was the guarantee of the silent scale powder's effect. The scale powder halo would have the upper hand when controlling the target. When the target recovered, they would have already missed the best time to avoid the silent scale powder. By then, the time needed to remove the silent scale powder would become the time for Lin Yuan's other Fays to attack to their heart's content. Fays had different exclusive skills, and each Fay had hundreds or even thousands of exclusive skills. It wasn't easy to select a suitable exclusive skill from them. In fact, some Fays would specifically grind out the bronze exclusive skill before contracting a Fay. However, it was easier said than done to grind out a specific exclusive skill among the hundreds or thousands of exclusive skills. Lin Yuan couldn't help but think of the braised egghead. She had already agreed to kill almost the 15th wave of web-spraying spiders. However, even after killing dozens of web-spraying spiders, the braised egghead still hadn't obtained the exclusive skill, transparent spider silk, that she wanted. Lin Yuan felt that he had experienced two miracles from the moment he broke out of the cocoon. One was that the blue flash purple butterfly's cocoon had actually produced a blue flash purple butterfly that was only 1 in 10 million. The other miracle was that when Lin Yuan enhanced the blue flash purple butterfly, he actually obtained such a compatible exclusive skill. The blue flash purple butterfly had just reached bronze grade, and the silent scale powder's effect wasn't considered strong yet. However, if the blue flash purple butterfly matured, it would definitely be a very powerful control ability on the battlefield with the scale powder halo's silent scale powder. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 117. Lin Yuan had sent a message to Lu Jie when he had returned to the Radiant Moon Palace. After experiencing a life-and-death calamity, Lin Yuan was not in the mood to look at houses anymore. It just so happened that he could enhance the blue flash purple butterfly from bronze I/normal to bronze X/epic. As for evolving the blue flash purple butterfly to silver, he did not have such a consideration now. This was because the blue flash purple butterfly's future potential was related to when it advanced into a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan might not be an absolute perfectionist, but this concerned his future, so he suppressed all his Fays to bronze X. Another reason was that Morbius grade and quality were related to the spirit-locked Fey. A spirit-locked Fey couldn't be changed, so every spirit-locked Fey was of utmost importance. Otherwise, it would simply be a disaster for him if any of his Fays were stuck at a grade. This was because Morbius grade would also be stuck at the lowest spirit-locked Fey grade. When the Fey evolved into a fantasy breed at bronze, he would be able to increase the Fey's grade at will and wouldn't have to be stuck at bronze. He was originally thinking about how to obtain 2 mahogany tree cores after the jasmine lily evolved from epic to legend. Now, he only needed to use the Radiant Moon token to find the spiritual ingredients he needed in the Radiance Palace's treasury. Therefore, he decided to upgrade the jasmine lily's quality to legend and then fuse it with the willpower rune he had comprehended in the mountains, rivers, and vegetation. This way, the jasmine lily would become his first fantasy breed fae. Lin Yuan did not know how powerful a bronze/fantasy breed was. However, thinking about it, if it was at the same stage, it would definitely be stronger than a bronze/fantasy breed fae. When a fae became a fantasy breed, it would transcend the inherent genetic model and evolve into a fantasy fae. Finally, it broke through fantasy V and ascended to myth, evolving into a myth breed fae. Previously, Lin Yuan's vision was very shallow and only knew about fantasy breeds, but he didn't know that there were myth breeds above fantasy breeds. Now, not only did he know about it, he even saw it. Lin Yuan had also determined the path that the jasmine lily and his other fays would take after becoming fantasy breeds. Morbius had yet to wake up from its slumber. In the end, it hadn't been long since Morbius had fallen asleep. However, Morbius had yet to wake up, and Lin Yuan was rather worried. At this time, Morbius' attributes had already changed. Lin Yuan's vacant bronze spirit lock position had also been filled. Fey name, Morbius, spirit species, : Fey grade, bronze, 10/10, Fey type, spatial/mystery, comprehension grade, epic skills frowny face true data. Convert all complex information that cannot be discerned by the naked eye into data. Information that is digitized may contain the truth that cannot be discerned on the surface. Calm mind, passive ability. The effect of calm mind can be strengthened according to the phase grade. Calm mind can stabilize the mind and has a certain probability of resisting negative states. Exclusive skill frowny face spirit lock. Morbius spatial zone can nurture phase. The initial grade of the Fey that Morbius spatial zone can nurture cannot be higher than Morbius grade. Morbius is unable to level up, but its grade will increase along with the Fey it nurtures. At the same time, Morbius can obtain the initial abilities of the Fey it nurtures. However, Morbius will not obtain abilities when it levels up. Every time Morbius increases a grade, it will be able to nurture one more Fey. At the same time, Morbius upgrade method will remain unchanged. Pure Land of Bliss. The Spirit Lock spatial zone produces soil that can be used to heal near-death phase injuries. The phase recovery time will be determined by Morbius grade and the dying phase grade. Normal Spirit Lock. Jasmine Lily, bronze, 10/10, epic ability, heal. Rapidly heals external injuries and slowly recovers vitality. Exclusive skill. Recovery imprint, stores the healing energy that the jasmine lily normally releases. The contractor can activate the imprint to release the stored healing energy. Elite Spirit Lock, Spirit Gather Goldfish, bronze, 10/10, epic ability, Spirit Injection, a one-time recovery of a certain amount of spiritual power. Afterward, it will slowly recover the lost spiritual power. Exclusive skill, Spirit Chi Imprint. The spirit chi that is released will not be released into the environment but will be stored in the spirit chi imprint. The spirit chi imprint will be branded on the contractor's body, and the contractor can take the initiative to release the stored spiritual power in the spirit chi imprint. Bronze Spirit Lock. Blue Flash Purple Butterfly. Bronze, 10/10, epic ability, Silence Scale Powder. Releases a special scale powder with a silence effect, causing the target that comes into contact with the scale powder to be unable to communicate with spiritual power and release abilities. Exclusive skill, Scale Powder Halo. The scale powder has a powerful reflective effect. The multifaceted reflection of the scale powder will cause the target that is enveloped by the scale powder to suffer from optical pollution, causing dizziness and even temporary blindness. Lin Yuan looked at Morbius data under True Data. He felt that it was really hard to find a healing type or support type Fey that was stronger than Morbius in this world. Each of Morbius' abilities corresponded to a Fey. Each Fey's ability corresponded to the Fey's corresponding exclusive skill. This allowed him to enhance Morbius' ability in the direction he wanted. After devouring a large amount of dimensional lifeforms' flesh, Red Thorn had evolved to Elite X/Epic. However, he was unable to help Red Thorn with the barrier between Elite X and Bronze. Red Thorn needed to devour a large amount of flesh to break through this barrier. It wasn't easy for a Fae to break through such a barrier, so the Red Thorn still needed some time to evolve to Bronze grade. The most important thing now was to evolve the Jasmine Lily into a fantasy breed. Therefore, Lin Yuan headed to the Radiant Moon Palace to prepare to obtain the spiritual ingredients needed to evolve the Jasmine Lily into a legend breed. He walked out of the pavilion and headed toward the Radiant Moon Palace. From time to time, he would see some rare Faes blooming in the flowerbed beside the Radiant Moon Palace or playing on the lawn. Before Lin Yuan could reach the Radiant Moon Palace, he saw Cold Moon walking toward him. Song Yu glanced at Lin Yuan, bowed slightly, and spoke in a cold voice. "Young lord, the Moon Empress is asking for you to make a trip to the inner palace." Lin Yuan was startled when he saw Song Yu bowing to him. He quickly replied, "Senior, I am not worthy of your greeting." Lin Yuan was rather respectful toward experts. Not only did Song Yu bow to him, but she also addressed him as young lord. This made Lin Yuan feel rather uncomfortable. Song Yu looked at Lin Yuan, and her usual cold expression was tinged with warmth. The Moon Empress is the owner of the Leaning Moon Mountain's Radiant Moon Palace. Black Moon and I are the Moon Empress envoys and also her retainers. Young lord, you are the Moon Empress disciple and her relative. You are naturally worthy of my greeting. In the end, you are also the young owner of the Leaning Moon Mountain's Radiant Moon Palace. After speaking, Song Yu paused for a moment before continuing. Young lord isn't just worthy of my and Black Moon's greeting. There aren't many people in the Radiance Federation who can't receive greeting from you. Speaking of this, Song Yu recalled that Cheng Wu had tried to kill Lin Yuan, and she frowned. This time, the Moon Empress probably asked your young highness to go because she wants to prepare an expert that can protect you. There are people with ill intentions everywhere. Before your young highness grows up, you must have a protector for your young highness. Lin Yuan's brows twitched. His master, the Moon Empress, actually wanted to arrange a protector for him? Baidu immediately read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 118. Dao Protector was a very sacred term in the hearts of the Radiance Federation's people. Dao Protector referred to the safety and growth of the younger generation. It was to protect a very young and talented Dao. All the dangers that the younger generation encountered on their path of growth would be protected by their own Dao Protector. The Dao Protector would be a bystander and watch the Dao that he protected from the perspective of a bystander, which was the growth of the younger generation. The prerequisite for everyone to be qualified to be a Dao Protector was to have a willpower rune. The Dao Protector had to swear an oath to the willpower rune and use all his strength and even his life to protect the Dao's growth. Until the Dao that he protected reached a satisfactory level. The Dao Protector would activate his oath again and deepen the oath to become the Dao that he protected, which was the responsibility of the younger generation's housekeeper. He would no longer protect the Dao's growth from the perspective of a bystander. If the Dao Protector was not satisfied with the Dao that he protected, when the younger generation that he protected grew up, the Dao Protector would remove the willpower rune oath with the younger generation that he protected. From then on, the Dao Protector would leave the younger generation that he protected and no longer protect them. Generally, the younger generation that could have Dao Protectors were all prestigious families and influential clans. After all, there were no practical benefits for an expert to become a Dao Protector. If there was any favorable treatment, it was just gambling on the Dao that he protected, which was the future of the younger generation. In fact, if the Dao that he protected died as the Dao Protector, he would even be counterattacked by the willpower rune. The Dao Protector would do his best to protect the Dao that he protected. At the very least, he would protect until the younger generation grew up. Therefore, the Dao Protector's protection was somewhat like the etiquette of the knights before the Spirit Qi awakening. Of course, the Dao Protector's protection didn't mean that it was indiscriminate. Before the Dao that he protected grew up, The Tao Protector would only take action when he encountered a situation of certain death. It was considered a kind of life insurance. During normal times, even if the Tao that he protected was insulted and tortured endlessly, as long as it was not a situation of certain death, the Tao Protector would only watch from the sidelines. The resistance that the younger generation encountered might seem difficult, but it was often the most important thing that allowed the younger generation to transform, be it in terms of mentality or strength. This was because the growth of the younger generation, especially the growth of geniuses, was treading on thorns every step. Only by stepping over the thorns one step at a time would one be able to ascend to the true heights. One would be able to stand at the very top and look down on all the other mountains. Lin Yuan was rather clear about the common sense of having a path protector, but he had never thought that he would have one. Even though Lin Yuan had acknowledged the Moon Empress as his master, he had never thought that there would be a day when an expert would never leave his side and protect him. Lin Yuan did not feel bad about it. Perhaps he might not be used to it at first, but he did not have to worry about encountering assassinations. Along the way, Song Yu narrated Qing Wu's execution to Lin Yuan with a cold expression. Whenever she mentioned Qing Wu, a cold glint would flash in her eyes from time to time. The 5 sin-cleansing weeping willows in the sin-cleansing pond were taken away because the spirit guards wanted to suppress the phase. Today, Mystic Moon has replanted the 5 sin-cleansing weeping willows. The sin-cleansing spring's mouth of the sin-cleansing pond is a little clogged, and Mystic Moon has ordered people to renovate and open up a new path. Chang Wu has received the Moon Empress Moonlight Sublimation, so he should be able to repent in the sin-cleansing pond for the few days he has left. Lin Yuan did not know much about the sin-cleansing weeping willows and the sin-cleansing spring's mouth of the sin-cleansing pond that Song Yu had mentioned. However, in the Radiance Federation, everyone from 80 years old to 10 years old children would have heard of the sin-cleansing pond. This place, which made people shudder with fear, had countless legends. Only the most evil people would be imprisoned in the sin-cleansing pond to cleanse their sins. Chang Wu would not have an easy time in the sin-cleansing pond. Lin Yuan did not express any opinion about Cheng Wu's execution, as he did not want to put the Moon Empress in a difficult position. Lin Yuan would never be lenient to people who wanted to kill him. However, Lin Yuan also understood that everything he did now was relying on his master's power and not his own strength. However, this was only temporary. Lin Yuan believed that he would have a place in this world sooner or later. When he reached the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, Lin Yuan saw the Moon Empress combing the fur of a beautiful, snow-white fae with 7 tails. This fae was a white fox with 7 tails. The white fox's eyes were a deep green, and its beautiful appearance was filled with elegance. However, just from its eyes, one could feel the unparalleled cruelty of this 7-tailed white fox. At that moment, the ordinary white rabbit, which was eating a carrot, suddenly jumped onto the Moon Empress' shoulder and ate the carrot that it was constantly eating. When the little rabbit jumped onto the Moon Empress' shoulder, the 7-tailed white fox suddenly lowered its head. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the 7-tailed white fox seemed to be afraid of the little rabbit. It slowly prostrated and curled its tail slightly. This was the action of a fox species fae to express its submission. Fox species fays were famous for being arrogant and would rarely submit even in death. However, it was actually in a state of submission now. Fox species fays had always been outstanding among beast species fays, and there were very few beast species fays that could be comparable with fox species fays. Furthermore, fox species fays were very rare, so it was very rare to see them. Moreover, it was a white fox with 7 tails. Lin Yuan remembered that there were records of it in some supernatural books in his previous life. A fox with 7 tails would bring disaster after disaster. When a fox has 9 tails, the world will be in chaos. Before Lin Yuan could take a closer look at the 7-tailed white fox, the Moon Empress had already finished combing its tail. The Moon Empress raised her hand, and the 7 tails were stored into her spiritual spatial zone. Song Yu hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Moon Empress, your calamity sun-swallowing fox has evolved from 6 tails to 7 tails. It seems like your calamity sun-swallowing fox's quality has evolved to myth-I." The Moon Empress nodded. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, She smiled and waved her hand. From the looks of it, you should have recovered from the state of being assassinated. The Moon Empress carefully observed Lin Yuan's expression and was relieved. Previously, she had been thinking about how to enlighten Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan chuckled, revealing a mouthful of white teeth, looking very radiant. I've made you worry, master. In fact, Lin Yuan was not frightened by the previous assassination. His expression had not been good before because he had truly recognized how weak he was after the assassination attempt. As a person who had lived 2 lifetimes and had already died once, Lin Yuan's heart's determination was not something that ordinary people could imagine. When Lin Yuan addressed her as master, the Moon Empress immediately beamed with joy, and the smile on her face stunned Cold Moon. Cold Moon could not remember how many years it had been since the Moon Empress had laughed so carefreely. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 119. Cold Moon's usually frosty face revealed a rare smile. It wasn't just because she was happy for the Moon Empress, but because she was infected by the atmosphere. After chatting for a while, the Moon Empress' expression suddenly became very serious and solemn. After thinking about it, I feel that it is better to find a path protector for you as soon as possible. The more dangerous it is, the better it can protect you. Lin Yuan didn't refuse. He nodded and said, "That's enough." He nodded and said, "Master, please arrange it." When the Moon Empress heard that Lin Yuan didn't refuse, the smile on her face didn't disappear. The disciple that she had just accepted was more strong-willed and wasn't used to relying on a master. This made the Moon Empress feel that it was indescribably tough. Now that Lin Yuan agreed so readily, it made the Moon Empress crack a rare joke. Your path protector is in the inner palace, right under your eyes. Let's see if you can discover it. Lin Yuan looked around the inner palace before his eyes landed on Cold Moon. Lin Yuan couldn't help but wonder if the path protector that his master found for him was Cold Moon. Cold Moon looked at Lin Yuan with a smile. She didn't say anything or nod. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly felt a weight on his shoulder, and there was a strange voice coming from it. The voice sounded a little cold, making one's hair stand on end. However, this creepy female voice was surprisingly pleasant to listen to. "Kid, where are you looking at? Your path protector is over here." When Lin Yuan felt his shoulder sink without him noticing it, he knew that something had landed on his shoulder. When he turned around, he realized that it was a red spider that looked like it was carved out of crystal. The spider's legs had bright red crystal thread-like stingers. The red was very dazzling, as though it was stained with blood. It was as though the outer shell was carved out of red crystal. It was filled with dark red blood and had a cruel sense of beauty. This spider creature was simply like God's perfect creation. However, the 8 slender spider legs and the spiky armor on its back revealed its valiance. Lin Yuan seemed to smell a faint blood aura from the spider's body. There seemed to be a layer of viscous blood-colored energy emitting from the spider's body. Lin Yuan observed the red crystal-like spider, and the red crystal-like spider was also carefully observing Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked for a long time before turning to look at the Moon Empress, who nodded. "This is your path protector, the mother of bloodbath, a suzerain/myth-eye fae." Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan couldn't help but exclaim. The path protector that his master, the Moon Empress, had found for him was actually a fae, and it was even a myth-eye fae. However, what was a suzerain? A suzerain fae? Before the Moon Empress could speak, the mother of bloodbath spoke first. Above the diamond rank is the suzerain rank. The suzerain rank. Before the mother of bloodbath could finish speaking, it suddenly shut its mouth. The mother of bloodbath suddenly saw the Moon Empress looking at it coldly. The Moon Empress looked at the mother of bloodbath and was furious. It wasn't easy for his disciple to ask a question, and he, as his master, hadn't even had the time to teach him, so what was he going to answer? The Moon Empress ignored the mother of bloodbath's words and explained again. Diamond isn't the limit. Above the diamond rank is the suzerain rank. A suzerain fae will produce a domain according to its exclusive skill. The moonlight that you saw today is the power of the cold moon lone will domain. Lin Yuan carefully remembered the Moon Empress words and heard her say, "Diamond isn't the limit." At the same time, there are also fays. The easiest way for a fae to evolve into a fantasy breed is to sign a contract with a human. When the fay's quality reaches legend, it will fuse with the contractor's willpower rune. However, this isn't the only way for a fae to become a fantasy breed. The Moon Empress paused for a moment and saw that Lin Yuan was listening to her carefully. She nodded with satisfaction and continued speaking. A fae that doesn't have a contractor's contract will generally evolve into a fantasy breed at Diamond. However, if it can evolve to legend at Diamond, it will have a chance to comprehend a willpower rune from heaven and earth. It will fuse with the willpower rune and evolve into a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan was flabbergasted. This was the first time he heard that a fae could evolve into a fantasy breed on its own without going through a contractor. However, according to the Moon Empress, a fae that relied on itself to evolve into a fantasy breed would at least be at Diamond. This made Lin Yuan involuntarily think of the 2 silver stamen gold luster caches planted at the entrance of the Radiant Moon Palace. Those 2 silver stamen gold luster caches had reached Diamond X/Legend. Presumably, they were also waiting to comprehend a willpower rune and evolve into a fantasy breed. Before Lin Yuan could think further, the Moon Empress continued speaking. A wild fae that evolves into a fantasy breed might only evolve into a fantasy breed at Diamond, but it will still be stuck at Diamond. It will only have a chance to evolve from Diamond to Suzerain when its quality reaches Fantasy V. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh. In the long river of life, the evolution of life forms had never stopped. This was the first time he heard of the concept of Suzerain, so he couldn't help but ask, "Is Suzerain much stronger than Diamond?" At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath on Lin Yuan's shoulder couldn't help but ask. Diamond and Suzerain are 2 different levels and can't be compared at all. When a fae reaches Fantasy V and evolves into Suzerain, it will experience a world cleansing. After completing the world cleansing, it will evolve into a Suzerain. Only when it reaches Suzerain can it evolve into a myth breed. I was saved by the Moon Empress during the world cleansing, which is why I'm willing to be your path protector. When Lin Yuan heard the mother of Bloodbath mention the world cleansing, he knew that the world cleansing was both an opportunity and a calamity for fays. The magnificence of the epic of life was the transformation and rebirth after the calamity. If it couldn't survive this calamity, it would become a bubble in the long river of life's evolution. The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan and said seriously, "This is considered the Radiance Federation's secret. This is considered the Radiance Federation's secret, and only King-class experts are qualified to know about it. Most people have been focusing on the phase quality and neglected the phase grade. However, grade is the most fundamental existence. In order to evolve the Fae to Suzerain, it would need to evolve the Fae to Fantasy V at Diamond. In the eyes of a Suzerain, any Fae that hasn't reached Suzerain is just a slightly stronger ant." Lin Yuan didn't have any concept of myth breeds and only knew that they were above fantasy breeds. Now, Lin Yuan knew that the prerequisite to become a myth breed was to reach Fantasy V and become Suzerain. Lin Yuan had always had a question, and that was why the highest grade of fantasy breed phase he encountered were always Diamond. Now, Lin Yuan finally understood. Fantasy V was Suzerain, and only by becoming Suzerain could one touch myth and evolve into a myth breed. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 120. Blood-colored energy filled the entire rear hall, completely overshadowing the radiance of the several dozen diamond-grade lotuses in the lotus pond. The platinum spirit siphon goldfish were also hiding under the lotus leaves, not daring to show their heads. This blood-colored energy made him feel as though he was in a bottomless pool of blood that he could not get out of. The viscous blood seemed to be able to devour everything. The strange female voice had a special tone, cruel and solemn. A blood-colored rune shot out from the mother of Bloodbath's back, emitting a scarlet blood-colored light. I, the mother of Bloodbath, swear on the law rune to form a path protector contract and become Lin Yuan's path protector. As his voice fell, he could feel a trace of energy separate from this blood-colored rune and land on his body, making him faintly feel that he had a connection with this blood-colored rune. After concluding the Path Protector contract, the Mother of Bloodbath officially became Lin Yuan's Path Protector. From now on, Lin Yuan also had his own Dao Protector. The Mother of Bloodbath seemed to have consumed a lot of energy after forming the Path Protector contract with Lin Yuan. Kid, you're really lucky to have a Dao Protector contract. With the influence of my Law Rune energy, it'll be much easier for you to comprehend willpower runes. As the Mother of Bloodbath spoke, it moved its hairy spider legs. His scarlet eyes were filled with the feeling that Lin Yuan had taken advantage of him. After speaking, the Mother of Bloodbath turned around and looked at the Moon Empress seriously. I am indebted to the Moon Empress for giving me a new lease of life in the past. This time, I will treat it as returning the favor. The Moon Empress looked at the Mother of Bloodbath and said coldly, "Protect this palace's disciple and become this palace's disciple's Dao Protector. This palace should accept your kindness." The Mother of Bloodbath did not speak again. Instead, with a flash of scarlet energy, it turned into an extremely exquisite red crystal spider that was 1 centimeter in size. With a light leap, it jumped onto Lin Yuan's hair. It disappeared into Lin Yuan's hair. As a Path Protector, the Mother of Bloodbath had no feelings for Lin Yuan. It was only because he owed the Moon Empress that he was willing to be Lin Yuan's Path Protector. Therefore, the Mother of Bloodbath would not give Lin Yuan any preferential treatment. It would only do what a Path Protector should do and not let Lin Yuan die. The blood-colored energy slowly fused into Lin Yuan's spiritual energy, making him feel lighter as though the whole world had become clearer. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan felt as though he had comprehended something. It was as though he could grasp something just by stretching out his hand, but there was a faint layer of window paper. But what was the law rune that the Mother of Bloodbath had mentioned? Lin Yuan opened his eyes and saw the Moon Empress looking at him with a smile. Before Lin Yuan could ask, the Moon Empress had already answered. When the Mother of Bloodbath became your Path Protector, you comprehended a trace of the law rune that the Mother of Bloodbath comprehended. This will be very beneficial to your comprehension of willpower runes in the future. For the younger generation, comprehending the willpower runes between heaven and earth is the most difficult. The Radiance 100 sequence's first seat already has 3 willpower runes. The Moon Empress had said this to give Lin Yuan motivation and pressure. It told Lin Yuan his advantages and also let him know the state of the strongest expert of the younger generation. Lin Yuan suddenly clenched his fist. Weren't there 3 willpower runes in his spiritual spatial zone? It was just that he had never told anyone about it. Although his strength was still lacking, in terms of comprehending willpower runes, he was already on par with the Radiance Federation's #1 person among the younger generation. How could Lin Yuan know that he had unknowingly obtained an advantage that others could only dream of? That was the enlightenment of a trace of law rune energy, which would undoubtedly greatly enhance one's ability to comprehend willpower runes. However, he still did not know what law runes were. The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan's probing gaze and explained, "After advancing to suzerain after Fantasy V, I'll need to transform my willpower rune into a rule rune if I want to become a myth breed and become a myth breed." The Moon Empress said unhurriedly, "Willpower runes are just comprehending the laws of heaven and earth, while law runes are comprehending the laws of heaven and earth and transforming them for one's own use. That's why the gap between myth and fantasy breeds is so huge." After Lin Yuan and the Moon Empress asked about some knowledge, they carried out a question-and-answer exercise between master and disciple. When Lin Yuan asked the Moon Empress, she would use her own experience to answer. When the Moon Empress asked Lin Yuan, she was also helping him to consolidate his knowledge. The questions and answers were the joy of a master and disciple. After Lin Yuan left, Cold Moon walked to the jade table and picked up a small, exquisite teapot made of sweet white glaze. She poured a cup of amber-colored tea and handed it to the Moon Empress. He handed it to the Moon Empress and said, "My lady, you haven't been so happy in a long time." The Moon Empress picked up the teacup, and when the amber-colored tea entered her mouth, it brought along a refreshing aftertaste. "It feels great to have a disciple." I suddenly feel proud to see a little fellow grow step by step. It's as though I'm looking at myself when I was young. When the Moon Empress spoke, the corners of her mouth were slightly curled up. Perhaps this was a master's duty, and a disciple's duty was to pass on the torch. After leaving the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, Lin Yuan headed to the Radiant Moon Palace's spiritual ingredient treasury. He already had the revival soil, but he still needed 1 liter of grasswood fountain water and 2 mahogany tree cores. Grasswood fountain water and mahogany tree cores might be rare outside, but in the Radiant Moon Palace's treasury, Lin Yuan was really worried that they might not be available. After all, these 2 spiritual ingredients were of a rather low grade in the Radiant Moon Palace's treasury. In Lin Yuan's soft hair, a 1 centimeter long spider that looked like it was carved out of rubies lay quietly. It was the Mother of Bloodbath. The Mother of Bloodbath was currently in a strange state. In Lin Yuan's hair, the Mother of Bloodbath kept feeling that Lin Yuan's body was emitting very pure spirit qi. Faze loved pure spirit qi. When the Mother of Bloodbath smelled the spirit qi emitted from Lin Yuan's body, it suddenly felt that perhaps becoming a path protector wasn't as bad as it imagined. The Faze thoughts were very simple. The Mother of Bloodbath felt close to Lin Yuan's plant spirit qi. The Mother of Bloodbath's impression of Lin Yuan was naturally much better. Lin Yuan knew that the Mother of Bloodbath was lying in his hair, so he couldn't help but speak. "Senior, I'll have to trouble you in the future." The Mother of Bloodbath snorted lightly, lifted its leg, and jumped onto the tip of Lin Yuan's nose. "There's no need to call me senior. Just call me by my name, Mother of Bloodbath. Don't call me that normally. I won't make a move unless you're dead." After speaking, the Mother of Bloodbath jumped off Lin Yuan's nose again and landed on the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box hanging in front of Lin Yuan's chest. It looked like a red crystal spider on a leaf. It was very exquisite. Even if one looked carefully, one wouldn't be able to tell that the spider on the leaf was a living creature. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 121. When he arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's spiritual ingredient treasury, he noticed 3 spirit attendants in light yellow robes standing at the entrance. He had seen 2 of them before. They were the young girls who had come to clean the pavilion previously. After listening to the gossip brought by the wind, Lin Yuan still vaguely remembered their names. The well-dressed one was called Jin Qi, and the undressed one was called Wen Yu. Lin Yuan had never seen the other young lady before. When the trio saw Lin Yuan, Jin Qi's eyes lit up, and she hurriedly ran over and bowed. "Lord Lin Yuan, long time no see." Lin Yuan nodded and took out a token engraved with 2 crescent moons. "I came to take some spirit materials from the treasury." Jin Qi hurriedly said. "What spirit materials do you need, Lord Lin Yuan? I'll go prepare them right away." Lin Yuan reached out and scratched his head. 1 liter of grasswood spring water and 2 mahogany tree cores. Jin Qi had intentionally blocked Wen Yu and the other spirit attendant when she stepped forward. He did not give Wen Yu and the other spirit attendant a chance to speak at all. He thought that no matter what Lin Yuan needed or what spiritual ingredients he wanted, he would make Lin Yuan in the most satisfactory state. However, when she heard that 1 liter of grasswood spring water and 2 mahogany tree cores, Jin Qi was a little confused. During these 2 seconds, another young girl that Lin Yuan didn't know walked forward and looked at Lin Yuan respectfully before speaking. "Lord Lin Yuan, we do have the mahogany tree cores in the treasury, but we don't have 1 liter of grasswood spring water. The water in the stream at the mountainside of the Leaning Moon Mountain is all grasswood spring water. If you want it, I can fetch some water for you now." Jin Qi secretly glared at the young girl who walked forward. She didn't expect that in her 2 seconds of absent-mindedness, someone would immediately interrupt. When the girl saw Jin Qi staring at her, she also stared back. Jin Qi still couldn't understand why Lin Yuan wanted the mahogany tree core and the abundant grasswood spring water at the mountainside. However, he still quickly interjected. "Lord Lin Yuan, I will bring you the grasswood spring water halfway up the mountain." Lin Yuan was speechless. He had guessed correctly. The spiritual ingredients he needed were very rare outside, But he did not even have the qualifications to enter the Radiant Moon Palace's treasury. How many liters of grasswood spring water would there be in a stream? It was frighteningly rich. Upon seeing Lin Yuan nod, Jin Qi immediately prepared to head to the mountainside of the Leaning Moon Mountain to collect the grasswood fountain water. When he was about to leave, he suddenly thought that if he went to fill the spring water, wouldn't he be giving others a chance? Jin Qi's eyes turned, and she pulled the girl who had just interrupted and said, "Xianxia, come with me to collect grasswood spring water. Since Lord Lin Yuan needs it, we will store more in the treasury." The girl called Sissy was dragged away from the Radiant Moon Palace by Jin Qi unwillingly. In Jin Qi's eyes, Xianxia was obviously more competitive than Wen Yu. Lin Yuan didn't understand the young lady's thoughts, let alone guess. Now, only Wen Yu was left at the entrance. Lin Yuan waved his hand and said, "Don't worry. I also happen to need some other spiritual materials. Why don't you help me get them?" Wen Yu stepped forward and bowed, waiting for Lin Yuan to continue. Lin Yuan wrote down the spiritual ingredients he needed on a piece of paper. The spiritual materials were required to evolve Genius and Chimey to the legendary grade. Genius and Chimey might not have a suitable willpower rune, but they could evolve to the legendary grade in advance. Wen Yu took the paper and quickly said, "Lord Lin Yuan, these spiritual materials are available in the treasury." "Lord Lin Yuan, these spiritual materials are all available in the treasury. Would you like to wait here for me to go in and get them for you, or would you like to go in with me?" Lin Yuan didn't have anything to do anyway. "Let's go in together." After entering the Radiant Moon Palace's treasury, Lin Yuan saw all kinds of spiritual materials placed in boxes of various materials on the shelves. According to the characteristics of different spiritual materials, the equipment used to store the spiritual materials was especially particular. Lin Yuan was a little dazzled by the amount of spiritual materials. Wen Yu was obviously very familiar with this place. In just a short moment, she had arranged all the spiritual materials that Lin Yuan needed and stored them in a Fey storage box. Lin Yuan took the Fey storage box and was about to follow Wen Yu out when Wen Yu suddenly coughed violently. Wen Yu quickly used a handkerchief to cover her mouth, but the handkerchief was still stained with some blood. It was obvious that she had coughed it out earlier. After the violent coughing, Wen Yu quickly turned around and bowed to Lin Yuan. "My apologies, Lord Lin Yuan. I was rude." While speaking, Lin Yuan could see that Wen Yu was a little apprehensive. Lin Yuan looked at Wen Yu and said, "There's nothing rude about it. There's nothing impolite about that. How can a person not get sick after eating so many grains?" Wen Yu smiled apologetically. Lin Yuan couldn't help but recall the conversation that had been brought to his ears by the wind. He suddenly asked, "The competition for spirit attendants should be very intense, right?" Wen Yu quickly nodded and said, "If they don't meet the standards, they will lose their qualifications as spirit attendants." After Wen Yu answered, she didn't expect Lin Yuan to suddenly say something that surprised her. "The competition for spirit attendants is so intense, but you still have to risk damaging your roots to save someone. Is it worth it?" Wen Yu didn't expect the conversation that night to be heard. Lin Yuan's sudden question left Wen Yu at a loss for how to answer. Her talent was originally in the top 3, but after saving someone, her roots were damaged, and her results fell behind. She was at the bottom and was almost certain to lose her qualifications as a spirit attendant. At that moment, not only was she being suppressed by her companions, but even the people she had saved were slowly distancing themselves from her and even suppressing her. This was the naked truth. However, when you wanted to ask herself if she regretted it, perhaps she regretted it. But at that time, she didn't even think about it and rushed forward without looking back. Was she stupid? It seemed a little stupid now. However, no matter how stupid or regretful she was, it was her true self who had done those things. Lin Yuan saw that Wen Yu was biting her lip and didn't say anything for a long time. He suddenly smiled. After being bullied and suppressed, it would be unreal if she didn't hesitate to say that she didn't regret it. A true and kind person was hard to come by. Lin Yuan turned around and waved his hand. "In a while, help me send the grasswood spring water to my pavilion. I'll go back first." On the way back, Lin Yuan heard the mother of Bloodbath say, Why? Are you going to treat her injuries because of your compassion? When speaking, the mother of bloodbath's tone had a hint of mockery. For Fays, compassion had long been indifferent to Fays that had reached their current position step by step. As a Fay, it had walked step by step to its current position and had long since become indifferent to compassion. Natural selection and survival of the fittest were the ironclad rules among Fays. Lin Yuan shook his head and said, "The path is chosen by oneself. Naturally, one has to persevere and grit one's teeth to continue walking." After Lin Yuan finished speaking, the mother of bloodbath didn't say anything and continued to lie on the leaf. At that moment, the mother of bloodbath heard Lin Yuan speak again. "But I want to tell her while I have the ability." Her original intention of choosing the path previously wasn't wrong. After speaking, Lin Yuan walked forward with determination. The moment Lin Yuan finished speaking, unnoticeably, the red spider on the leaf trembled, and the aura around it unnoticeably softened. Baiduan read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 122. When you came out of Lin Yuan's pavilion, her face might be pale and sickly, but there was a different light in her eyes. This light was not as bright as the stars, but it had a kind of determination of recognition. There was a small amber bottle in his hand, and he held it tightly in his hand. The noon sun was like fire. Even though it was late autumn, it was still warm when it shone on the body. When you walked on the stone path and looked at the bottle in her hand, suddenly, her eyes turned red. A teardrop fell on the stone path and created a splash. However, the splash was quickly evaporated by the noon sun, along with the water vapor in Wen Yu's eyes. The small bottle in her hand contained a drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was unique to the Radiant Moon Palace and had always been precious. Even the spirit attendants nurtured by the Radiant Moon Palace could only obtain a drop when they were selected to become spirit attendants. It was used to wash away the impurities in their bodies and increase their potential. A place like the Radiant Moon Palace might seem peaceful, but the war between spirit attendants had never stopped. The previous impulse and that moment of kindness had allowed Wen Yu to see the true hypocrisy of the world. With a drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar in hand, it could wash away the impurities in the body and repair the damaged roots. Therefore, she just needed to drink this drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar later, and it would be able to wash away the impurities in the body and repair the damaged roots. Wen Yu was grateful not only for this drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, but also because the path that she had denied previously had been proven to be not completely wrong. At the very least, this path was recognized by someone, and it proved that she was not a kind fool. However, Wen Yu might not do it again in the future. Even if she did do it, she would weigh the gains and losses. A real and naked ordeal had let Wen Yu know that kindness should be used where it should be used. What Lin Yuan wanted was to not hope that a kindness that could be seen in the eyes would eventually turn into the opposite darkness. At the very least, this drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar had allowed a kind girl to keep the hurt kindness in her heart. When the mother of bloodbath saw that Lin Yuan was preparing to enhance the Fey, it flashed outside the pavilion. It was lying on the roof beam of the pavilion. It was motionless, as if it had fallen into a deep sleep. When a creation master was enhancing a Fey, it would be very easy for them to be distracted if there were any disturbances. Therefore, when creation masters were enhancing Feys, they would normally choose to do it in a quiet breeding room without any disturbances. In a contest between creation masters, apart from competing on the creation master's professional ability, it was also a contest on the creation master's ability to resist interference and mental quality. When a creation master was concocting the spiritual ingredients, a single sound or disturbance might cause the concoction to fail and waste the spiritual ingredients. It might even affect the Fey's evolution and quality. When Lin Yuan returned to the pavilion, he took out all the spiritual ingredients he had obtained from the Radiant Moon Palace's treasury and carefully checked them. After finding that there were no problems, he placed them on the table. Lin Yuan had to be extra careful when it came to improving his Fey's quality. He first went to soak in a hot spring to wash off the dust on his body. He then changed into a set of clean clothes and prepared to upgrade the jasmine lily, chimey, genius, the spirit gather goldfish, and the blue flash purple butterfly. Lin Yuan had never had the chance to upgrade a phase quality from epic to legend. Naturally, he didn't know how difficult it was to upgrade an epic fade to legend, but he knew that it wouldn't be easy. Now, Lin Yuan was finally going to experience it. Lin Yuan currently had a total of 7 phase, but Morbius quality couldn't be manually upgraded. He had to upgrade the spirit-locked phase quality. Red Thorn also had to rely on devouring flesh to evolve. Therefore, Lin Yuan could only upgrade the jasmine lily, chimey, genius, the spirit gather goldfish, and the blue flash purple butterfly. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment. Since he had chosen to go into seclusion to upgrade the phase quality in one go, he decided to upgrade the jasmine lily first. Lin Yuan went to prepare a purple clay pot and poured the revival soil inside. He then took out 2 mahogany tree cores, which were of superior quality among the mahogany tree cores. When looking at the dark red mahogany tree cores, Lin Yuan couldn't help but touch them. The dark red mahogany tree cores were filled with dense tree patterns. The mahogany tree cores were the heart of red pines. Every year the red pines grew, there would be an additional tree pattern on the mahogany tree cores. Looking at the tree patterns on the mahogany tree cores, Lin Yuan knew that the red pines that produced the mahogany tree cores were at least 100 years old. Lin Yuan picked up a crystal bowl and placed the mahogany tree cores into the crystal bowl to grind and crush them. He then poured the crushed mahogany tree cores into the revival soil and stirred them carefully. Immediately after, Lin Yuan planted the bronze X/epic jasmine lily in the revival soil that was mixed with the mahogany tree core powder. The jasmine lily quickly took root in the recovery soil mixed with the mahogany tree core and began to absorb the nutrients. The jasmine lily was originally very verdant. As a succulent plant, the jasmine lily's fleshy flower was crystal clear and had a light fragrance. The closer to the center of the flower, the more verdant it was. When one looked over, one would feel that the center of the jasmine lily's flower looked like a jadeite with a good head. When Lin Yuan saw that the jasmine lily had taken root, he started to slowly pour in the grasswood fountain water. When the grasswood fountain water had moistened the revival soil and the mahogany tree cores, Lin Yuan stopped pouring in the grasswood fountain water. Lin Yuan then circulated his spiritual power to enhance the jasmine lily. Every time the jasmine lily absorbed the grasswood fountain water in the soil and dried up the revival soil, Lin Yuan would add a small amount of grasswood fountain water. When the jasmine lily absorbed the revival soil, the mahogany tree cores, and the grasswood fountain water, it became increasingly verdant. However, after Lin Yuan enhanced the jasmine lily for a few hours, he sensed the jasmine lily's state and realized that it would be a huge project for the jasmine lily to reach the legend grade. Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone and enhanced the jasmine lily in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's spirit chi environment. Time ticked by. Apart from eating and sleeping for 5 hours a day, Lin Yuan had been enhancing the jasmine lily all the time. 5 days later, apart from a little bit of revival soil, the powder from the 2 mahogany tree cores had been used up. Lin Yuan had also used up 1 liter of grasswood fountain water. At that moment, the jasmine lily had also stopped absorbing the energy in the purple sand pottery pot. Lin Yuan realized that the jasmine lily's grade had evolved to the legend grade. Lin Yuan let out a deep breath and wiped off the fine sweat on his forehead. After enhancing the jasmine lily's quality from epic to legend, Lin Yuan had a plan. It would require around 5 days of intensive nurturing in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone to evolve a bronze phase quality from epic to legend. Baidu would be the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 123. Lin Yuan was rubbing his temples with his fingers in deep thought. For the past 5 days, Lin Yuan had only slept about 5 hours a day on average. The rest of the time was used to enhance the jasmine lily, which made Lin Yuan very tired. This was because he needed to circulate the spiritual power in his body at all times during the enhancement. He would need to sleep for at least 5 hours a day to offset the consumption of such spiritual power circulation. Of course, this was under the premise that Lin Yuan had consumed a bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to wash out all the impurities in his body. If Lin Yuan had not consumed the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, his body would not have been able to withstand such a strong enhancement. While in deep thought, Lin Yuan suddenly stood up. He asked someone to find a silver/epic fey and brought it into the spirit lock spatial zone for enhancement. Lin Yuan realized that it was really difficult for him to enhance a silver/epic fey to legend. This was because he had spent 2 days in the spirit lock spatial zone to enhance the silver/epic fey. Looking at the state of the silver/epic fey, Lin Yuan knew that his hard work in the past 2 days was almost a drop in the bucket to evolve the silver/epic fey to legend. If he wanted to do it, he would have to stay in the spirit lock spatial zone for at least 2 months without rest. The current situation made Lin Yuan even more aware that he was completely different from other creation masters. Other creation masters wanted to enhance phase from epic to legend. The higher the phase grade, the easier it would be. However, Lin Yuan was the opposite. The lower the grade of the fey, the easier it would be for him to enhance it from epic to legend. Given Lin Yuan's current strength, it was not enough to enhance a silver/epic fey to legend. If such a thing were to spread, it would probably subvert the views of other creation masters. If Lin Yuan raised his hand and auctioned off a bronze/legend fey, it would probably cause a sensation in the Radiance Federation. All the major factions in the Radiance Federation would probably come to fight for it. After the experiment, Lin Yuan asked someone to take the silver/epic needle-tailed squirrel out. Then, he went to the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace to find the Moon Empress and told her about his intention to enter seclusion. Then he entered seclusion in the pavilion. He used over 20 days to upgrade Genius, Chimey, the Spirit Gather Goldfish, and the Blue Flash Purple Butterfly from Bronze/Epic to Legend. Rounding it up, it was a month's time. Lin Yuan had finally upgraded his 5 contracted phase from Epic to Legend. Lin Yuan was already very fatigued. Apart from ensuring that he had enough time to recover his stamina, he had been enhancing his phase quality. This made Lin Yuan feel very tired. However, the joy of seeing his contracted phase quality rise from epic to legend was hard to describe with words. He had watched Genius, Chimey, the Spirit Gather Goldfish, and the Blue Flash Purple Butterfly evolve. Now that it was at legend, the phase appearance didn't change much. However, his essence, chi, and spirit had all improved significantly. Intelligence's fur became softer, and its memory became better. The cloud patterns on Chimey's feathers were even more obvious, and its exclusive skill, Clear Sky's scorching characteristic, was even more intense. Her voice had also become more pleasing to the ear, and her singing had clearly improved to another level. However, Chimey didn't know that after disappearing for over a month, its fans had gone completely crazy. As a phenomenal host, Chimey's skiff had covered the screen, and countless people had been intoxicated by its singing voice. Many people guessed that Chimey was an absolute beauty that only wanted to rely on her talent to make a living. In addition, Sequence 87 of the Radiant Sequence, Lord Ranger, had supported Chimey crazily. After defeating his opponent on the Celestial Stairway, he had publicly expressed that he liked listening to Chimey songs, making Chimey even more famous. However, Chimey, which was like the sun in the sky, had suddenly disappeared without a sound. Furthermore, it had disappeared for a month. Countless posts on the Star Web were discussing this matter, and there were all kinds of speculations. The disappearance of the sparrow voice lowly goddess had become a popular news in the Radiance Federation's entertainment news. The Spirit Gather Goldfish had a unique prowess when it swam, which Lin Yuan had felt from Long Tao's Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. However, the prowess on the Spirit Gather Goldfish was still very faint. This prowess was the unique dragon might of dragon species phase. The Blue Flash Purple Butterfly's scale powder had become more delicate and light, making it easier to spread. The light refracted by the fluttering scale powder was like a light purple rainbow with a base, which was exceptionally beautiful. Lin Yuan stretched and immediately lay on the bed to have a good sleep. He slept for an entire day, making up for his previous hard work and allowing his body to recover to its most energetic state. This was because Lin Yuan was going to start fusing the jasmine lily with the willpower rune and evolve it into a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan held his breath and summoned one of the 3 willpower runes in his spiritual spatial zone. This willpower rune was what Lin Yuan had felt when he was looking at the Green Mountain. A big fire had burned the plants on the Green Mountain to the point where not a single blade of grass could grow. However, the continuous drizzle had allowed the Green Mountain to grow new green after a few months. In Lin Yuan's opinion, rather than saying that the rain was silently moisturizing things, it was better to say that the plants had strong vitality. The wildfire could not burn, and the spring wind would blow again. Perhaps the grass roots left in the mountain rocks would complete a life's praise in a few months' time, a new life of greenery. Looking at this green mountain-shaped willpower rune, Lin Yuan shot it toward the jasmine lily, which was already at bronze X/legend. In an instant, the bronze X/legend jasmine lily's flowers suddenly swayed. They were very eager to embrace this mountain-shaped willpower rune. The instant the willpower rune fused into the jasmine lily, the willpower of the Green Mountain will never change and everything will be reborn was suddenly transmitted, causing the jasmine lily's body to emit an emerald light. The jasmine lily's originally short branches suddenly shrank and disappeared. The jasmine lily's flowers popped out one after another, and in just a short while, the jasmine lily looked like it had almost turned into an emerald green bouquet. The flowers were close to each other, as though they had formed the shape of a mountain. The unique fragrance of the jasmine lily became richer. Lin Yuan exclaimed. The jasmine lily was actually growing in groups. Succulent plants were very unstable when they grew and evolved, and there was a small chance that they would mutate. Growing in groups was a kind of basic mutation of succulent plants. After growing in groups, succulent plants would give up a portion of their evolution potential and strengthen their current genetic model, evolving the current genetic model toward perfection. Due to Morbius spirit lock, the jasmine lily only had one ability, and that was heal. In other words, the jasmine lily gave up on the possibility of more abilities and used it to strengthen its current heal. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 124. It was impossible to control the mutation of a succulent. It was impossible to control the mutation of living in groups. Most people's contracted succulent plants did not like to live in groups. This was because most phase abilities would get stronger in the later stages, and there were very few exceptions like the blue flash butterfly. However, it was different when Lin Yuan's jasmine lily could only use one ability. After the jasmine lily grew in groups, each flower could release healing energy. This was the same as turning the jasmine lily from a single target healing to a group healing. Each flower was equivalent to an increase in the number of healers. Just as Lin Yuan thought that the jasmine lily was about to complete its evolution into a fantasy breed, the jasmine lily's originally round petals suddenly developed into an irregular shape. In just a moment, the bottom layer of the jasmine lily and those flower heads had all grown into an irregular shape. Only the largest jasmine lily's flower was left on top without any changes. This sudden change made Lin Yuan involuntarily cry out in surprise. After the jasmine lily grew in groups, it actually underwent the rarest form of succulent plants. Fasciation was also a type of mutation, and it belonged to the most irregular type of mutation among succulent plants. It allowed the plant's body to develop and grow unpredictably. At the same time, fasciation was also the most precious type of mutation for succulent plants. Lin Yuan had never heard of a fasciated jasmine lily, as fasciation could only happen when a succulent fae evolved into a fantasy breed. Almost no one would choose to evolve a basic fae like the jasmine lily into a fantasy breed. Therefore, Lin Yuan's fasciated jasmine lily was most likely the only one in the world. The fasciated jasmine lily's petals grew layer by layer, destroying the flower's original structure. Therefore, the emerald green in the middle of the jasmine lily scattered to various parts of the leaves. Looking at it now, it looked like a lingering emerald haze, just like the mist of supreme grade jadite. The unchanging jasmine lily's flower at the top had become the size of a bowl. At this moment, the jasmine lily was considered to have truly evolved into a fantasy breed. After Lin Yuan's jasmine lily evolved into a fantasy breed, he immediately used the jasmine lily on himself. When Lin Yuan felt the surging vitality pouring into his body, he was actually dazed for 3 seconds. Due to the surging vitality, Lin Yuan suddenly had a feeling like he was lying on a soft big bed when he was the most sleepy. It was like he wanted to laze in bed in the morning and would not be woken up no matter what. Lin Yuan considered himself a strong-willed person, but it was still very difficult for him to recover from this extreme happiness. When he regained his senses, he looked at the jasmine lily and couldn't help but have an idea. The jasmine lily's heal was clearly a healing skill. However, it seemed like it could be used as a control skill. The sense of bliss produced by the comfortable feeling in the bookstore and the absent-mindedness was actually a kind of unexpected control. After some experiments, Lin Yuan finally knew where this sense of happiness came from. Using the flower of the jasmine lily that hadn't undergone its fasciation to treat him would only allow him to quickly recover from his injuries. He wouldn't be able to experience the blissful feeling of having his vitality replenished to the extreme. However, when those irregular flowers were used for treatment, a sense of happiness arose spontaneously. It seemed that the embellishment had mutated the jasmine lily's heal skill. When Lin Yuan looked at the exclusive skill that appeared after the jasmine lily became a fantasy breed, he could not help but stare blankly at it in his hand. Normal Spirit Lock, Jasmine Lily, Bronze X/Fantasy I ability, Heal, recovers injuries and replenishes vitality. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Recovery Imprint, stores the healing energy that the jasmine lily normally releases. The contractor can activate the imprint to release the stored healing energy. Severed Growth, comprehend the mystery of plant growth. Even a severed limb's rich vitality can slowly continue to grow. What kind of superb item have I evolved into? The fantasy breed's exclusive skill, Severed Growth, could use surging vitality to activate the body's cells' memory factors. Thus, it could achieve the ability to regrow severed limbs. Of course, this kind of severed limbs only referred to the hands and feet, or even the arms and thighs. If one's head fell off, one could only die immediately. Even an immortal would not be able to do anything, unless one's head fell off due to laughter. Now that Lin Yuan had his first fantasy breed Fei, the first thing he did was to upgrade the jasmine lily. Lin Yuan originally thought that it would not be difficult for him to upgrade a jasmine lily from bronze to gold. However, when it came to upgrading a fantasy breed Fei, Lin Yuan found that it was simply terrible. Lin Yuan entered seclusion for another month before he painstakingly upgraded the jasmine lily to silver. Now, Lin Yuan seemed to suddenly understand why the earlier a fantasy breed Fei evolved into a fantasy breed, the greater its potential. Energy was conserved, and the injection of so much spirit chi for a month only allowed the fantasy breed to evolve from bronze X to silver, crossing a threshold that could be broken with a touch before evolving into a fantasy breed. The spirit chi would not vanish into thin air, so this massive amount of spirit chi was absorbed by the fantasy breed jasmine lily. The massive amount of spirit chi laid down a foundation was naturally much stronger than the phase that evolved from bronze to fantasy breed. During this period of time, Lin Yuan had been in seclusion and evolving phase in the spirit lock spatial zone all day, which was driving him crazy. Life wasn't just about the present, but also poetry and the future. The past 2 months had given Lin Yuan the capital to step into the world, and it was time to see the world. Only by seeing the world would he know how to live like a gorgeous summer flower. Therefore, Lin Yuan decided to go to the endless forest outside the imperial capital for a wild harvest. The phase that creation masters enhanced weren't all artificially reared. Some of the rarer phase were collected in the wild. Creation masters would use spiritual ingredients and other methods to attract phase, using the spirit chi contained in the spiritual ingredients to let wild phase get close to humans. After a series of enhancements, they would then be sold. Lin Yuan didn't have to go through so much trouble. Lin Yuan just needed to circulate his spirit chi and place his palm on the wild fei, and the pure spirit qi would quickly gain the favorable impression of the wild fae. Lin Yuan was preparing to open his own store in the royal capital. Although he hadn't opened his store yet, it was imperative to harvest some rare faes in advance. Otherwise, Lin Yuan couldn't always pick up endangered faes with damaged roots. Not only were such faes hard to find, but even if he found high-grade faes, Lin Yuan wouldn't be able to heal them. Moreover, the pure land of bliss in the Spirit Lock spatial zone already had a cinnabar sweet osmanthus and a recovering cinnabar osmanthus haworthia. If he were to bring in some other faes with damaged roots, the pure land of bliss in the Spirit Lock spatial zone wouldn't be big enough. Moreover, Lin Yuan was still waiting to consume the cinnabar osmanthus haworthia's fruit to enhance his spiritual energy. Increasing his spiritual energy was what Lin Yuan urgently wanted. After tidying up, Lin Yuan was ready to set off. Lin Yuan planned to settle down the store once he returned to the royal capital after this wild harvest. He wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 125. He looked at the sky and saw the rosy clouds in the royal capital's red sky, which was particularly eye-catching. The fiery clouds made the sky seem exceptionally high and vast. It was already dusk. Since Lin Yuan had decided to go out and did not plan to stay on the Leaning Moon Mountain for a long time, he simply went to the Radiant Moon Palace to bid farewell to his master, the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan had just left the pavilion when the Mother of Bloodbath opened its eyes on the beam and jumped onto the leaf-shaped Fey storage box hanging in front of Lin Yuan's chest. It continued to lie motionlessly and comprehend the law runes that it controlled. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan in the inner palace, her eyes lit up. This seclusion has been going on for over 2 months. Did you gain anything during these 2 months? Lin Yuan touched the back of his head and smiled brightly, revealing a mouthful of white teeth that was full of youthful aura. I can't return the gains from this seclusion. To Lin Yuan, this seclusion had increased the quality of his 5 fays from epic to legend. Furthermore, he had obtained his first fantasy breed fay, which was considered a huge and important gain. Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress smiled and nodded. She had always admired Lin Yuan's character, but she did not expect him to be so hardworking in cultivation. Nowadays, there weren't many people in the younger generation who could seclude themselves in their houses for more than 2 months without going out. Ever since the Moon Empress had taken Lin Yuan in as a disciple, apart from teaching him the corresponding knowledge, she had not asked him about his creation master or spirit qi professional advancement speed. On one hand, it was because she felt that the initiative in cultivation still depended on one's own consciousness. On the other hand, she did not want to give Lin Yuan pressure, so she had not asked. Since the Moon Empress did not ask, Lin Yuan did not mention his level. Whether it was because he had 3 willpower runes or the jasmine lily that had evolved into a fantasy breed at bronze, the Moon Empress was his master. The Moon Empress was his master. If the Moon Empress asked, he would naturally tell her and wouldn't intentionally hide it. However, the Moon Empress did not ask, and Lin Yuan was an introverted person, so he naturally would not take the initiative to reveal it. Lin Yuan felt that it was fine as long as he knew how capable he was. After all, these were his means and not capital to show off. If it was someone else with Lin Yuan's ability, they would have already publicized it. Previously, he had been afraid of revealing too much of himself, which might lead to the saying, "The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind." However, now that he had the Moon Empress as his master, he naturally did not need to be afraid of these things. With the Moon Empress around, no matter how strong the wind was, Lin Yuan's tall and straight small tree would not be disturbed in the slightest. Moreover, the suzerain/myth Mother of Bloodbath was always by his side. If someone still dared to have any ideas about Lin Yuan, that person would have to worry about himself. After chatting for a moment, Lin Yuan explained to the Moon Empress the reason for his visit. Upon hearing his words, the Moon Empress raised her hand and handed him a dark brown beetle-shaped accessory. There was a pin at the back of the accessory that could be hung on his body. At a glance, Lin Yuan recognized that the beetle-shaped accessory was a diamond fey storage box. However, this beetle-shaped Fey storage box was dark brown in color, and there were some dark green patterns on it, making it look a little strange. It wasn't as pretty as the leaf-shaped diamond Fey storage box. Lin Yuan took this strange beetle-shaped diamond Fey storage box and listened to the Moon Empress explanation. This diamond Fey storage box contains all the wealth that Chen Zhao has accumulated as a pinnacle class 4 creation master for so many years. When he attacked you previously, take the things in this Fey storage box as a way to calm your shock. Lin Yuan looked at the Moon Empress' concerned eyes and didn't refuse. He then put away this diamond beetle-shaped Fey storage box. When he put it away, Lin Yuan took a look at this diamond Fey storage box. He realized that there were no spiritual ingredients that he didn't recognize in this diamond Fey storage box. There weren't even any spiritual ingredients. It was all a massive amount of radiance dollars. Lin Yuan had previously used his Star Web card to transfer his purchases, so although he knew what physical radiance dollars looked like, he had never used them before. Now that he looked at this diamond Fey storage box, there was a small mountain of bottle cap-sized amber button-shaped radiance dollars. Lin Yuan felt that this glance was really a little shocking. He didn't know how many radiance dollars there were in this small mountain. A pinnacle class 4 creation master's wealth really couldn't be underestimated. After sitting for a while, Lin Yuan was about to bid farewell when he heard the Moon Empress say softly, "The road in the future is very long, and the sky is very wide." The road ahead is long, and the sky is wide. Whether or not you can fly to the highest, furthest, and widest place is all up to you. Remember, no matter what happens in the future, Master will always be your support. When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress' words, his eyes felt warm, and a feeling of being protected rose from the bottom of his heart. Lin Yuan was used to being independent, but he cherished this feeling very much. After bowing respectfully as a disciple, Lin Yuan returned to his pavilion and prepared to set off the next morning. Previously, Lin Yuan was still thinking about where he should open his store and how much area he should buy. He still needed to make some choices. However, with the wealth in Chen Zhao's diamond Fey storage box, Lin Yuan had more choices if he wanted to open a store, and he didn't need to worry about expenses. As a creation master, Lin Yuan might have a strong ability to earn money, but he still lacked capital. With capital, Lin Yuan wouldn't need to be restrained in anything he wanted to do. After Lin Yuan left, Cold Moon went forward and saw that the Moon Empress had been looking in the direction Lin Yuan had left. "Moon Empress, are you worried about Lin Yuan?" The Moon Empress shook her head, picked up the teapot on the table, poured a cup of tea, and took a sip. "It's not that I'm worried, but I'm proud and a little reluctant to see my disciple want to venture on his own." Upon hearing that, Cold Moon said softly, "Moon Empress, didn't you exchange all of Qing Wu's accumulated wealth for radiance dollars to give Lin Yuan the capital to venture on his own? Moon Empress, you've put in a lot of effort." The Moon Empress shook her head and didn't continue to say anything. After taking in a disciple, she finally understood the true responsibility of a teacher. The continuation of life and the passing of the torch were never as simple as it sounded. It was a kind of relationship that might not be as close as blood, but it could already rise to the level of blood kinship when they became master and disciple. At that moment, footsteps came from outside the palace. Mystic Moon walked into the inner palace and bowed. "Moon Empress, Cheng Wu has been in the sin cleansing pond for 2 months and just died. The Spirit Guard's Chief Guard Yi and Patrol Envoy Iron Prison are asking you how they should deal with him." The Moon Empress stood up and was about to walk to the breeding room. Her cold voice carried a sharp chill. "He's already dead. What else is there to deal with? Let them handle it themselves. After Chen Zhao was hit by my moon essence, he was still able to survive in the sin cleansing pond for 2 months. How can I let him live if he wants to harm my disciple? You can't even survive in the pond of cleansing." Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 126. The next morning, Lin Yuan left the Leaning Moon Mountain early and traveled light. Everything was stored in the diamond Fey storage box hanging on his chest. It had to be said that it was really convenient to have a diamond Fey storage box. Last night, Lin Yuan had sent a message to Lu Jie and told him not to have so many concerns when choosing a store. If he wanted to choose a store, he would choose one that was bigger and had a relatively good location. Lin Yuan no longer needed to worry about money. After leaving the Leaning Moon Mountain, Lin Yuan's goal was very clear. This time, Lin Yuan called for a speed-hoof donkey cart and headed to the Guild Alliance. This Guild Alliance was not an official organization like the Creation Master Association or other lifestyle class spirit chi occupation guilds. The Guild Alliance was an alliance formed by countless guild clubs in the Radiance Federation that relied on the combat class spirit chi occupation guilds. Lin Yuan was going to register and get certified in this Guild Alliance. After registering in the Guild Alliance, if Lin Yuan wanted to go wild, he could join some guild club teams and form a temporary team. He could even accept and issue missions in the Guild Alliance. If the Star Web was the Radiance Federation's second world and carried the second world's industry, the Guild Alliance was the place where most combat-class spirit chi professionals lived, worked, and trained in the real world. Accepting and completing missions would allow one to obtain a large amount of commissions. If there were bosses that issued missions, one could obtain the spiritual ingredients or phase that one needed as soon as possible with sufficient rewards. There were also many creation masters that needed special spiritual ingredients and would issue missions to the Guild Alliance. Some of the high-reward missions would even be accepted by famous guild club teams. Of course, in most cases, the phase in the Guild Alliance's missions were all basic rare phase. If one wanted to evolve a rare phase or increase its quality, one would need to look for a creation master. If there was a place where creation masters were the most respected and supported, it had to be the Guild Alliance. In the Guild Alliance's independent teams, the combat class spirit chi professionals were mostly low-level and didn't have outstanding aptitudes. They might work hard for 1 or 2 years just to increase the phase quality or grade. Most of the truly talented or stronger spirit chi professionals had joined club-like guilds. If a talented person wanted to be selected by a powerful club guild, the best way was to reach the 80th floor of the Star Tower or even the Celestial Stairway. This was because the powerful club guilds would choose to recruit new blood in the Star Tower. The Radiance Federation revered martial arts. Throughout the year, there would be competitions between various club guilds of all sizes. Every year, the Guild Alliance would cooperate with the Radiance Federation's officials to organize a tournament for the entire Radiance Federation's guild teams. It was commonly known as the S-Tournament. The S-Tournament was considered a competition for the younger generation, and the contestants could not be older than 30 years old. It was almost the same age as the Radiance Federation's Radiance 100 sequence members. In the S-Tournament, some of the truly powerful guild clubs would participate. These guild clubs' main teams would more or less have Radiance 100 sequence members. The Radiance 100 sequence members were the most dazzling star contestants in the S-Tournament. In fact, some clubs' main teams were made up of Radiance 100 sequence members. Each guild could only send one team, and each team had 5 members. Every team had to participate in various knockout rounds and qualifiers. In the end, 16 teams would be selected to compete on Star Web under the eyes of all the Radiance Federation's citizens. The 16 teams that qualified had a ranking, and the top 3 teams would be divided into the champion, runner-up, and third-place teams. They would all receive different levels of rewards from the officials and obtain supreme glory. However, people would often only remember the champion. After all, since ancient times, there had been a saying, "There is no first place in literature, and there is no second place in martial arts." There was no difference in academics, and hundreds of schools of thought could contend. However, in martial arts, the strong and the weak would be clear at a glance after a fight. Lin Yuan had arrived at the Guild Alliance's entrance and gotten off the speed-hoofed donkey cart. Lin Yuan looked at the lively and prosperous scene in front of him and touched the back of his head. It was said that the Guild Alliance was the most lively place in the royal capital, and it seemed to be true now. When Lin Yuan entered the Guild Alliance, he realized that many people's eyes were focused on him. One of the Guild Alliance's receptionists came up to greet him enthusiastically and also looked at him with burning eyes. Soon, Lin Yuan found out where the problem was. It turned out that these people were looking at the Class 2 Creation Master crest hanging on his chest. It seemed that Creation Masters would be particularly eye-catching no matter where they went. At this time, the Guild Alliance's receptionist said respectfully, "Lord Class 2 Creation Master, are you here at the Guild Alliance to issue a mission or to hire a Guild Club team?" Lin Yuan hurriedly shook his head. "This is my first time at the Guild Alliance. I plan to register at the Guild Alliance." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the receptionist's face immediately lit up and he hurriedly replied, "Yes, sir." "Then, my lord, please follow me to the VIP reception room." After that, the receptionist hurriedly led the way. The receptionist was overjoyed. Although Creation Masters would issue missions in the Guild Alliance, they only needed to be authenticated in the Guild Alliance. Very few Creation Masters would choose to register in the Guild Alliance. This was because the purpose of registering with the Guild Alliance was to be able to accept quests. If a Creation Master wanted to earn money to concoct spiritual ingredients and nurture phase, they wouldn't need to accept missions from the Guild Alliance. If any of the Guild Alliance's receptionists could receive a Creation Master and help the Creation Master complete the registration in the Guild Alliance, they would receive a considerable commission. This commission was almost equivalent to the receptionist's monthly salary. Therefore, Lin Yuan's registration was completely great news in the receptionist's eyes. When Lin Yuan entered the VIP lounge, he removed the Class 2 Creation Master crest that was hanging on his chest without leaving a trace. At the same time, he summoned Genius and let it undergo tool transformation. Genius tool transformation had two forms. One was a pair of glasses, and the other was a pair of glasses that turned into a mask. This time, Lin Yuan chose the form of a mask. Chimey turned into a silver-white mask with clear and shallow patterns that perfectly fitted on Lin Yuan's face. After putting on the mask, Lin Yuan's entire aura changed. He was still a sunny big boy previously, but after putting on the mask and the black spirit chi clothes, he looked very calm. Soon enough, Lin Yuan completed his business at the Guild Alliance. Lin Yuan's business was also very simple. He just bound the other star web card that he had obtained when becoming a Class 2 Creation Master to himself. Then, he bound his identity as a Creation Master to the Purchase with No Loss store. At the same time, he transferred his Star Tower climbing account to the other star web card. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 127. From then on, Lin Yuan had two identities on Star Web and in the Radiance Federation. One was a Genius Class 2 Creation Master, Lin Yuan. His other identity was Mr. Black, who was fighting in the Star Tower. Black was the name Lin Yuan had just given to his other identity. Lin Yuan's actions were essentially the same as separating his identity as a Creation Master and a Combat Class Spirit Chi Professional. After completing the registration and certification, Lin Yuan waved his hand when he saw that the salesperson still wanted to follow him. "I'll go take a look myself. You go and receive the others." After speaking, he walked toward the mission location. After seeing that Lin Yuan had walked far away, the receptionist muttered, "That's right. Such a young Class 2 Creation Master is actually a healing-type Spirit Chi Professional at the same time. Such a combination is simply making me jealous." That's right, Mr. Black was certified as a healing-type Spirit Chi Professional. When he arrived at the mission location, he was ready to find a team to head to the Endless Forest. As a result, he found that almost all the teams were looking for healing-type Spirit Chi Professionals. In this somewhat noisy mission location, there were quite a few people yelling. 2 Power Offense-type Spirit Chi Professionals, 1 Defense-type Spirit Chi Professional, and 1 Support-type Spirit Chi Professional. We are waiting for a Healing-type Spirit Chi Professional. 3 Fires Guild Club, 3 guilds working together to capture a Gold Phantom Lynx youngling, 14 waiting for 1. They were lacking a Healing-type Spirit Chi Professional. If you come, we'll let you be the boss. The Cedar Grass Guild Club's team is going to the Endless Forest to capture 10 silver blackback mountain boars. We are taking advantage of the price of pork to earn a huge sum of money. We are waiting for a healing-type spirit chi professional. Please, healer dad, healer mom, hurry up and join the team. After joining the team, you can take 30% of the total profit. Lin Yuan could not help but secretly raise his brows. Healing-type spirit chi professionals are really popular. Lin Yuan had known that healing-type spirit chi professionals were rare. According to the Radiance Federation statistics, only 1 out of every 100 spirit chi professionals had an affinity with a healing-type fae. Upon hearing the data, Lin Yuan could only sigh at the rarity of healing-type spirit chi professionals. However, when Lin Yuan was in the Guild Alliance's mission area and saw that all the teams were looking for healing-type spirit chi professionals to join them, the concept of healing-type spirit chi professionals became clear. A healing-type spirit chi professional was simply treated like a boss in every team. If one wanted to harvest good stuff in the Endless Forest, they had to go deep into the Endless Forest. Clearly, this Cedar Grass Guild Club's team had gone to capture the silver blackback mountain boar. It was impossible for them to venture deep into the Endless Forest, because there were blackback mountain boars in the periphery of the Endless Forest. Recently, a Class 2-dimensional rift had opened above the Radiance Federation's largest pig farm. This dimensional rift was very close to the Radiance Federation's largest pig farm. Almost all the life forms in the dimensional rift would fall into this pig farm when they emerged from the dimensional rift. The tens of millions of pig species phase in the pig farm had been killed and eaten by the dimensional life forms almost instantly. In the end, the situation was under control, and the life forms surging out of the dimensional rift were killed. However, the Radiance Federation's largest pig farm had suffered a heavy blow. Tens of millions of pig species phase had died, causing the price of pork to double. Therefore, there were teams of spirit chi professionals everywhere to catch pigs in the wild. The pigs were mainly used for reproduction, and a small number of elderly pig species phase that couldn't reproduce would be used as meat. After all, old pork was more fragrant. At this mission location, there were plenty of lone spirit chi professionals looking for teams. As lone combat class spirit chi professionals that often ventured into the wild, as they always had to integrate into various teams, most of them had developed a friendly personality. When one of the burly men who was also looking for a mission saw Lin Yuan standing there, he took the initiative to go forward and speak passionately. "Little brother, instead of waiting for a mission here, why don't you take the initiative to talk to those guild teams that need members?" Lin Yuan turned around and saw the burly man looking at him with a straightforward expression. According to the burly man, Lin Yuan understood that those guild teams seemed to be more popular than the scattered teams. At a glance, it was indeed harder for scattered teams to form a spirit chi professional than guild teams. Most of the guild club teams were waiting for a healing-type spirit chi professional. Many of the scattered teams had given up on forming a healing-type spirit chi professional, but the 5-member team was still not complete. Upon seeing Lin Yuan nod, the burly man laughed heartily. "This is your first time looking for a team and accepting a mission, right?" Lin Yuan couldn't help but be curious. How did this burly man see that it was his first time accepting a mission? Did he really look like a newbie with a mask on? "Why are you so sure that this is my first time accepting a mission? I might be a veteran." The burly man pointed at the spirit chi clothing that Lin Yuan was wearing and spoke with some envy. Who would wear this kind of spirit chi clothing on an adventure? If this clothing is scratched a little, then the money earned from this mission won't be enough to subsidize the clothing. "Young man, your family is rather well off. Do you need a veteran to guide you? If you need, I can." Lin Yuan then knew where the problem was. However, when he heard the burly man say that he could, Lin Yuan suddenly felt a slight chill on his back and blurted out, "No, you can't." When the burly man heard Lin Yuan's rejection, he shrugged and didn't mind. Immediately after, he looked at a guild team not far away and pointed with his finger. "Isn't there someone wearing spirit chi clothing on an adventure?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the burly man reached out and patted the chain armor on his body. "This is the clothing that should be worn on an adventure. They are wearing spirit chi clothing because they are healing-type spirit chi professionals and are the boss of the team." Lin Yuan reached out to touch the back of his head and looked at the burly man who patted the chain armor on his body. How do you know that I'm not a healing-type spirit chi professional? The burly man rolled his eyes angrily. If you were a healing-type spirit chi professional, you could still find a team here. The Guild Alliance's reception staff would have already received you and helped you find a team that requires healing based on your purpose. At that moment, Lin Yuan recalled the reception staff that had been following him. When Lin Yuan saw that the reception staff had been following him with a hesitant expression, he realized that the reception staff was trying to help him find a team. When the burly man saw that Lin Yuan didn't continue speaking, he laughed heartily and patted Lin Yuan's shoulder in a friendly manner. When a newcomer is looking for a team, it is best to find a team that doesn't require combat. It is best to gather some basic spiritual ingredients and familiarize yourself with the wilderness environment. If you recklessly accept a Fey capturing mission that requires combat, you might get injured and even implicate the team. Unless you are a healing-type spirit chi professional, the other team members will do their best to protect you. The burly man had already determined that Lin Yuan was a newcomer, so he spoke very seriously. Lin Yuan naturally understood this logic, but he still expressed his gratitude for being reminded by a stranger. When the burly man saw that Lin Yuan had listened, he wanted to encourage Lin Yuan again, but at that moment, he heard the noise in the mission area suddenly become softer. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free immediately. Chapter 128. The voice suddenly became softer, causing Lin Yuan and the middle-aged man beside him to immediately look around. Lin Yuan saw a group of people dressed in white and red with eagles drawn on their clothes walk in. At a glance, he could tell that they were all youths in their early 20s. The four of them were wearing the same clothes, which seemed to be the uniform of a club's guild team. One of the tall and skinny men shouted as soon as he reached the mission area. The train to the Endless Forest is about to depart. Old Driver is leading the team, and we are in urgent need of a healing-type spirit chi professional. As long as you come, you will be my little baby, and I will let you experience the most comfortable ride. The man didn't even get to say 2 words before a blonde girl slapped him on the back, causing him to cough. The woman with dyed blonde hair glared at the tall and thin man and said angrily, "Zhang Xiaobai, why are you always so straight? You really piss me off." The tall, thin man looked at the blonde woman and suddenly exclaimed, "Exening, how dare you say, provoke?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Xiaobai was punched by the blonde woman again. After a series of heavy punches, Zhang Xiaobai became completely obedient. At this time, the blonde woman shouted loudly, "The Extreme Battle Team's S-Tournament Reserve Team is going into the depths of the Endless Forest to search for the Gold Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom. They are in urgent need of a healing-type spirit chi professional. The healing-type spirit chi professional is required to be at least C rank and have a healing-type Fey that is at least silver." As soon as the woman's voice fell, the scene became lively. Clearly, this team's reputation was not weak. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the burly man smacking his lips and cheering as though he had fallen into a fanatical state. As expected of the reserve team of the second-tier guild's S-Tournament team, Sister Xing is getting prettier and prettier. Lin Yuan was a little speechless. It turned out that this uncle was a fan who chased after a celebrity. However, he did not know if this uncle was chasing after the Extreme Guild Club's team or the girl he was talking about. Lin Yuan could not help but pat the burly man's shoulder. Where did this team come from? The burly man looked at Lin Yuan with a face of disbelief and widened his eyes. "You don't even know this team? Even if you don't know this team, you should know about the Extreme Guild Club, right?" Lin Yuan still shook his head. The burly man immediately blew his mustache. "Kid, don't try to fool me. You don't even know about the B-Rank Guild Club, the Extreme Guild. It's not that you don't have a star web card, or that you've never used a star web card before." The burly man's words rendered Lin Yuan speechless. He had been on the star web before, but he had been enhancing phase. How could he have the time to bother about things that weren't related to enhancing phase? Although Lin Yuan did not know about the Extreme Guild Club, he still knew about the B Guild Club. Now, Lin Yuan finally knew why this 4-man squad was so popular. The S tournament was the top team competition of the Radiance Federation's youth generation. The Radiance 100 sequence was an individual ranking that was arranged in sequence order. The S tournament was a 5-man team. When teams fought, not only did they have to compete in strength, but they also had to compete in tactics. This was much more exciting than a duel. In the S tournament, every Radiance 100 sequence member's performance might even affect the Radiance 100 sequence's ranking. The Radiance Federation had only certified 16 A-class guild clubs. The rankings of these 16 A-grade club guilds would rotate every year because these 16 A-grade club guilds were the club guilds of the 16 teams that qualified for the S tournament. The remaining club guilds that were qualified to qualify for the next round were the Tier 2 guilds. Many B-class guild clubs had made it to the A-class guild clubs, but they had later fallen due to the S tournament's failure. This team was the reserve team of the B-class guild club, the Extreme Guild Club, and the S tournament's team. If a member of the S tournament team was unable to participate due to some special reasons, these reserve members would replace them. It was obvious that the 4 members of this 4-man squad were considered dragons and phoenixes among the younger generation. When the burly man saw that Lin Yuan did not know about the Extreme Guild Club's team, he had such an unbelievable reaction. In fact, it proved how popular the S tournament was in the Radiance Federation. There were no so-called actors in this world. Even if there were some who sang on the star web, they were just a minority. The real traffic in this world was actually the younger generation that participated in the S tournament. Furthermore, the Radiance 100 sequence members were the superstars among the stars. This team was very much in line with Lin Yuan's requirements to go to the Endless Forest for wild harvesting. At the same time, Lin Yuan also met this team's requirements. Just as Lin Yuan was about to step forward and apply to join the team, a healing-type spirit chi professional was already walking toward the 4-man squad. Lin Yuan saw that the healing-type spirit chi professional was already 1 step ahead of him and was walking toward the Extreme Guild Club's 4-man squad. Lin Yuan did not move his feet. The healing-type spirit chi professional walked in front of the 4-man squad and used his spiritual energy to summon his fae. The summoned fae was a somewhat ugly strange bird. It did not have any feathers but some wrinkled and dry skin. The grayish-black wrinkled and dry skin only had some orange spots on its back. Lin Yuan used true data to check this fae's attributes. Fae name: Spitting Turtledove, Fae species. Dove family/turtledove, Fae grade. Bronze, 10/10. Fae type: Flight, Fae quality. Elite abilities: Frowny face, wing flap. When flapping its wings in flight, it can carry out rapid acceleration and produce impact within the flapping range. Sticky saliva. Secretes highly sticky saliva that can prevent wounds from bleeding and slowly heal external injuries. Pungent saliva. Secretes saliva that has a pungent smell. The pungent smell of saliva can reduce the pain of wounds and refresh the mind. Exclusive skill: Frowny face over secretion. The spitting turtledove's salivary glands are very developed and can rapidly secrete a large amount of saliva. All along, healing-type faes were mostly plant-type faes. A bird-type healing-type fae wasn't considered too common among healing-type faes. However, this didn't mean that such rare healing-type faes would be expensive. Take this spitting turtledove in front of Lin Yuan, for example. On the contrary, the spitting turtledove was very cheap because its ability was simply too disgusting. When this spitting turtledove was summoned, Zhang Xiaobai couldn't help but sing. The old Indian turtledove has short legs and little fur. It can survive without drinking water for a few days. Its brain is a little messed up. It is sadder than anyone else when its prey dies. Upon hearing this song, Lin Yuan couldn't help but be surprised. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 129. Lin Yuan was simply too familiar with the song that Zhang Xiaobai was singing. It was the song of a superstar singer, Jie Chou, in Lin Yuan's previous life. Before transmigrating, Lin Yuan had always been Jie Chou's loyal fan and had heard almost all of Jie Chou's songs. Even if he could not remember the lyrics and could not sing, he could still hum them. Lin Yuan liked this Indiana old turtledove very much and remembered the lyrics clearly. When he had been working and tending to Fays in the Redbud City Xia region, he would hum it when he had nothing to do. But how could Zhang Xiaobai sing this song? After Zhang Xiaobai sang 2 lines, many of the other teams that were looking for members actually applauded. Zhang Xiaobai, your sparrow voice lowly goddess's singing is not bad. It's a bit like that. Wawawa. As expected of the Extreme Guild Club's Zhang Xiaobai. He's really starting to perform again. Sparrow voice lowly goddess hasn't shown up for more than 2 months. I don't know what she's been busy with. She actually left so many fans behind. I'm willing to use the happiness of over 100 ex-boyfriends in exchange for her quick return. Sigh, did you guys see the previous Star Web interview? I heard that Lord Ranger is Sparrow voice lowly goddess's #1. Ever since she disappeared, Lord Ranger has been pulling a long face and didn't say much during the Star Web interview. It made the host very embarrassed. When Lin Yuan heard the applause and the discussions mixed in the applause, he could not help but frown even tighter. Who is this sparrow voice lowly goddess? As a contracted Fays with higher intelligence could sense the changes in the contractor's thoughts and emotions. At that moment, Chimey was happily eating the platinum celery vine's leaves in the spirit lock spatial zone. Chimey would fly very high every time and then swoop down to tear off a small piece, peck it with its beak, and swallow it. While eating and playing, it would also fly to the spirit pool to drink a few mouthfuls of water from time to time. However, when Chimey sensed Lin Yuan's emotions and thoughts, it stopped eating the platinum celery vine and drinking the spirit pool's water. Chimey didn't eat the platinum celery vine and didn't drink the water in the spirit pool. It landed on the table obediently and shrunk its neck. It was precisely because of Lin Yuan's thoughts that Chimey, which had been happily eating platinum celery vines, remembered its live-streaming career that had been abandoned for more than 2 months. Chimey secretly flew up and arrived at the pure land of Paradise's white sand. It used its wings to fan away the white muslin on the sand. Buried in the fine white sand was the Star Web account card that Chimey had used for live streaming. Chimey tilted its tiny head and looked at the account card. It was time for a live broadcast. Zhang Xiaobai was enjoying the applause around him, but he accidentally saw Xin clenching her fists and looking at him. Zhang Xiaobai shouted at the surroundings. Everyone, please be kind and stop clapping. If you continue clapping, half of my life will be taken by this woman. The other adventurers around them laughed and began to look for their teammates. Lin Yuan looked at this spitting turtledove and touched his chin. Although the spitting turtledove's healing method was a little disgusting, both its sticky saliva and pungent saliva were quite effective. One can effectively stop bleeding and heal external injuries. The other can effectively toughen one's mind and ignore the pain caused by external injuries in battle. Coupled with the exclusive skill, over secretion, it greatly increased the spitting turtledove's healing ability. As a healing-type Fae, the spitting turtledove had a pretty good exclusive skill that could be paired with abilities. It was just that this spitting turtledove was only bronze rank level 10, although it was only 1 barrier away from silver rank. Although it was only 1 barrier away from silver, its healing ability was many times worse. Obviously, this healing-type spirit chi professional could not meet the requirements of the Extreme Guild Club's 4-man team. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the uncle beside him suddenly start to complain. The orange spots on this healing-type spirit chi professional's spitting turtledove's back aren't connected. It's obviously not silver. If young sister Xin lets him join the team, he'll drag the team down. Lin Yuan could hear the uncle's intention to protect the Extreme Guild Club's 4-man team. He was indeed a professional fan. Not far away, the yellow-haired Xin first turned her head to the left and found that Zhang Xiaobai was winking at the surrounding adventurers. She turned her head to the right, and the hair hit Zhang Xiaobai's head when she turned her head. Zhang Xiaobai didn't have time to wink. He grimaced in pain as he rubbed his cheek that had been hit by the golden hair. Xin looked at the other 2 teammates and said, Tan Ran, Lu Pinru, what do you think? Tan Ran, Lu Pinru, what do you think? The man called Tan Ran had chestnut-colored hair with natural curls and a harmless smile on his face. As for the girl called Lu Pinru, she had short hair that reached her ears. However, she was carrying a huge rectangular wooden object on her back. It was almost twice her height and looked a little strange. Lin Yuan looked over and could not help but wonder if this woman called Lu Pinru was carrying a large wardrobe at home with her. Lu Pinru looked at the healing-type spirit chi professional who had applied to join the team and shook her head. We're going to the depths of the endless forest to collect the Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom. The Jade Unicorn Ice Snake might be a gold fey, but there might be platinum feys in its habitat. We won't be able to bring enough supplies with us. The curly-haired Tan Ran also said seriously. He circulated his spiritual power when summoning the fey. I sensed his spiritual power fluctuation, and he should only be at the pinnacle of D rank. He's still a little away from C rank, so I refuse to let him join the team. Although Tan Ran spoke very seriously with his cute appearance, he actually gave off the feeling of a little puppy acting coquettishly. When Xian Ying heard her teammate's opinion, she turned to reject the healing-type spirit chi professional who had applied to join the team. The healing-type spirit chi professional was not annoyed when he was rejected. He was just a little disappointed, but he then grinned and took out a book. Boo-hoo, I knew it was impossible for me to act with you guys. But since we almost became teammates, can you give me an autograph? Lin Yuan could not help but be speechless. It turned out that this healing-type spirit chi professional already knew it was impossible for him to join the team. As a fan of these people, he simply wanted to find an excuse to ask for an autograph. The few people from the Extreme Guild Club also graciously took the book and signed their names. At that moment, the burly man beside Lin Yuan actually cried out, "Sob, sob, sob, I also want young sister Xian Ying's autograph." Just as he finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed, and he grimaced in pain as he spoke. This reserve team for the Extreme Guild Club's S tournament is amazing. Other teams would treat a healing-type spirit chi professional like a boss, but they actually picked one. It's really infuriating to compare oneself with others. I've almost forgotten how it felt to be healed by a healing-type spirit chi professional last time. Lin Yuan watched as the burly man suddenly changed his expression. He was really domineering. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 130. This uncle actually inadvertently came up with a unique skill. Who was the one who had just defended the Extreme Guild Club's four-man team and said that they could not let this healing-type spirit chi professional join the team. When the burly man saw Lin Yuan's expression, he was not embarrassed. He touched his nose and laughed loudly. You should lick and be jealous. This is the quality that a professional fan should have. You're still too young. Lin Yuan felt that this uncle had a lot of unique skills, and it was a pity that he came out to take the risk. At that moment, the healing-type spirit chi professional who had been rejected by the Extreme Guild Club's four-man team quickly found another team and was treated like a master. The Extreme Guild Club's four-man team also began to recruit healing-type spirit chi professionals again. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan strode forward. At that moment, the burly man next to Lin Yuan wanted to ask him to form a team if he really could not do it. The burly man thought that he would take it as him guiding the newcomer. At that moment, the burly man realized that Lin Yuan had already left. When he saw Lin Yuan walking toward the Extreme Guild Club's four-man team, his mouth could not help but open wide. Heartless. This kid can't really be a healing-type spirit chi professional, right? Just now, Lin Yuan was very appreciative of the Extreme Guild Club's four-man team's approach. The most important thing in a team was mutual communication and respect. For example, the yellow-haired woman named Xian Ying would listen to her teammates' opinions and also respect them. The other members also insisted on the team's bottom line in recruiting teammates. The other combat class spirit chi professionals needed to do their best to protect the healing-type spirit chi professional in the field. However, the premise of this protection was that the healing-type spirit chi professional could fully support the team's supply. It was not because the healing-type spirit chi professional could not fight that they should be protected. Therefore, the relationship between the team members was mutual. If the healing-type spirit chi professional could not complete the team's supply, The others naturally would not treat the healing-type spirit chi professional like a master. Field exploration was not child's play. If the healing-type spirit chi professional's supply could not keep up, it would cause the combat-class spirit chi professional to have new injuries before they could recover. This would form a vicious cycle, and all the team members would eventually collapse. If the combat-class spirit chi professional was compared to a kinetic machine, then the healing-type spirit chi professional would be someone who constantly repaired and refueled the machine. Therefore, when going into the wilderness, everyone would want to form a team with a qualified healing-type spirit chi professional who could replenish the team's supplies. The scarcity of healing-type spirit chi professionals wasn't the reason why they were so popular. The real reason was that healing-type spirit chi professionals couldn't be replaced. The 4 members of the Extreme Guild Club were already resting on the chairs in the mission area. Only Zhang Xiaobai was looking at the ceiling of the Guild Alliance's mission area and humming a song, as if he was thinking about life. It was not easy for a small team to find a suitable healing-type spirit chi professional. In fact, a normal team would have to wait for 1 or 2 days to find a suitable healing-type spirit chi professional. Even a team like the Extreme Guild Club's team of 4 would need to wait a few hours to find a suitable healing-type spirit chi professional. Therefore, the Extreme Guild Club's quartet did not think that another healing-type spirit chi professional who could not meet their team's requirements would come so soon. When Xing saw Lin Yuan walking over, she spoke out of habit. "Sorry, we don't usually sign autographs outside of the tournament." Xing was already used to Lin Yuan wearing a mask. There were many adventurers who wore masks. Many adventurers had injured their faces because of some dangerous missions. In order not to affect their teammates, they would wear a metal mask. Lin Yuan stood there, cleared his throat, and spoke. "I'm a healing-type spirit chi professional. I've met your requirements and am applying to join the team." Xing was a little surprised and then looked at Lin Yuan seriously. She was surprised to find that the man in front of her had an indescribable temperament. In other words, if one did not look at his masked face, this temperament gave people the feeling that he was a sunny youth. Before Xing could speak, she heard Zhang Xiaobai stand up with a wow sound. "I don't have to wait anymore. I hate waiting here for a healing-type spirit chi professional every time I do a mission. I want to sleep while waiting." Xing rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobai and stood up. Tan Ran and Lu Pinru, who were resting at the side, also stood up. They looked at Lin Yuan and nodded slightly. Xing said, "Our mission this time is to go to the depths of the Endless Forest and obtain the Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom. We have use for it, so we can't share it with you. However, the 5 of us will split the venom into 10 portions, and you can take 3 portions. We can convert the venom's price into radiance dollars and give it to you. See if you can accept it." Lin Yuan did not care about the Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom. The Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom was a precious spiritual ingredient that was extremely difficult to store and could easily deteriorate. Therefore, the fresher the Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom, the more precious it was. The Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom was a spiritual ingredient that could promote the evolution of poisonous phase. Lin Yuan had no use for it, so it would be better if he could exchange it for radiance dollars. Lin Yuan wanted to go to the Endless Forest mainly for the wild harvest, so he deliberately explained his purpose. "I will conduct wild harvesting when I encounter precious phase along the way. If there are no problems, I will join." Lin Yuan's indifferent words immediately caused the 4 people present to widen their eyes. Zhang Xiaobai was the first to speak. "Brother, are you also a creation master?" Generally speaking, those who wanted to conduct wild harvesting in the wild were all creation masters. This was because creation masters could kill phase in the wild to obtain spiritual ingredients, but they would not be able to harvest the phase in good condition. Wild phase were ferocious. Although most of them would not take the initiative to attack humans, if humans wanted to capture wild phase to conduct wild harvesting, they would definitely be counterattacked by the wild phase. Therefore, only creation masters could make wild phase develop a favorable impression and obediently allow themselves to be harvested. Lin Yuan did not hide it. Since Zhang Xiaobai had asked, he nodded. The 5-member team headed into the depths of the Endless Forest. Even if they wanted to conduct wild harvesting, they could not hide it from the Extreme Guild Club's quartet. Perhaps he would need the help of the Extreme Guild Club's quartet in the future, so he openly admitted it. Upon seeing Lin Yuan nod, Xing, Tan Ran, and Lu Pinru's eyes lit up. Zhang Xiaobai was overjoyed and said with some exaggeration, "We have picked up a treasure this time. We picked up a treasure this time. I didn't expect to find a healing-type spirit chi professional who is also a creation master. With a creation master on a field mission, this mission will be much smoother." Baidu quickly read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 131. When adventuring in the wilderness, one would be most afraid of encountering some extremely dangerous situations. A combat class spirit chi professional's fei might damage its roots. Healing-type spirit chi professionals wouldn't be able to do anything about injuries to the origin. Only creation masters would be able to treat it. Only a Class 2 creation master could fully heal a fei's damaged roots, but even a Class 1 creation master would be able to immediately take measures when the fei's roots were damaged. It would also reduce the damage to the fei's source, but it wouldn't reduce the fei's combat strength due to the damage to the source. He would be able to continue with the mission and return to the city to seek treatment from a Class 2 creation master. It wasn't a big deal for creation masters to gather in the wild, so there was naturally no reason to reject. Xing nodded her head and said happily, "If that's the case, it won't be a problem. Since you are a creation master, you will be of greater help to the team. I will raise the 30% reward to 5%, but before that, I want to verify your healing standard." Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't reject Xing Ying's suggestion, as such a test was a responsibility to everyone in the team in a certain sense. At this moment, Zhang Xiaobai suddenly screamed, "Fuck! Heartless! Xing, don't tell me you're going to experiment on me again." Xing looked at Zhang Xiaobai as though he was an idiot and nodded her head. "If not you, who else?" Zhang Xiaobai looked around and stuck out his tongue in resignation. Among the 5 people here, only he was a defense-type spirit chi professional. Xing and Tan Ran were power offense-type spirit chi professionals, while Lu Pinru was a support-type spirit chi professional. At the end of the day, he was the most suitable person to test Lin Yuan's healing ability. Tan Ran, who had not spoken much, suddenly took a step forward and said seriously, "I can try too. I'll replace Brother Zhang Xiaobai to test his healing ability." Zhang Xiaobai hurriedly walked to Xing Ying's side and said, "Brother Xiaobai, come and give it a try. Your body isn't good to begin with. What's there to try?" At this time, Zhang Xiaobai could already imagine the scene of Xing Ying beating him up. He couldn't help but grit his teeth and look at Xing Ying. "Be gentler." Xing Ying clenched her fist, and a kind of energy suddenly appeared on her fist. The moment the energy rose, her fist surged with a golden glow. Lin Yuan could sense that this energy was metal-type, and Xing Ying should have a metal-type fei. Xing Ying's current state was like attaching her contracted metal-type fei's energy to her body. However, the ability of a contractor to use a fei like this was much weaker than summoning it. Xing Ying looked at her fist and then at Zhang Xiaobai. She wanted to rummage through her backpack on the seat. "Should I bring my fists and punch you? That way, your injuries will be more severe, and I can better test my healing ability." Zhang Xiaobai covered his face and snorted. "What kind of hell am I living? Xing Ying, I'm telling you, you won't be able to get married in the future." Xing Ying raised her fist and smashed it towards Zhang Xiaobai's chest. When it smashed over, Lin Yuan could clearly feel that Xing Ying had held back her strength. The fist smashed into Zhang Xiaobai's chest, sending him flying 3 meters away. Zhang Xiaobai struggled for a while before getting up from the ground. He clutched his chest, his face pale. Zhang Xiaobai was about to take a deep breath when he heard Xing Ying say, "I won't not be able to get married. If I can't get married, I'll look for you in the future. I hit you, so you have to be responsible for me." Zhang Xiaobai was taking a deep breath and choked. He clutched his chest and coughed. After coughing for a long time, Zhang Xiaobai said, "My throat is very sweet. It seems that my internal organs are bleeding." Then, Zhang Xiaobai looked at Lin Yuan. Brother, it's up to you. If you can't cure me, I'll have suffered the beating for nothing. Lin Yuan raised his hand, and a beam of comfortable emerald green luster enveloped Zhang Xiaobai's body. This emerald green light only wandered around Zhang Xiaobai's body once before Lin Yuan stopped and withdrew his hand. Zhang Xiaobai felt his body's condition and patted his chest, which he was afraid of being hit. I'm completely healed. Brother, you're good. This healing ability has reached the silver level. In fact, when Xening had made her move just now, she had deliberately controlled her strength to the limit that a silver could heal. Zhang Xiaobai felt his body's condition and confirmed that Lin Yuan's casual healing ability had reached the mid-silver standard. Lin Yuan's strength made Zhang Xiaobai very happy. His casual healing was already at the mid-stage of silver. If he summoned a Fei, its healing ability would be at least at the pinnacle of silver. When such a powerful healing-type spirit chi professional was adventuring in the wilderness, the entire team would definitely be at ease. After a round of tests, Lin Yuan was considered to have joined the team. Zhang Xiaobai smacked his lips and said, "Now that the team has been formed, let's go invite the healer to a meal and get to know each other better. After lunch, we'll set off for the endless forest." When he arrived at the dining area, Zhang Xiaobai used his star web card to connect to the restaurant's private room's broadcast. Then, after fiddling with it for a long time, he finally found a channel and told everyone about it as if he was presenting a treasure. Listen, this channel is very interesting. Soon, he heard the content of the channel that Zhang Xiaobai had found on the radio. On the night of September 4th, the unemployed Mr. Wang invited his online friend Mr. Zhou to his rented apartment for a drink. During this period, I lamented that there were too many rich people. I immediately suggested that we should go out and make some money, and I immediately agreed. The surveillance cameras on Jianghe Road showed that at 5:16 a.m. on September 5th, their breakfast stall was set up. Zhang Xiaobai, At 5:26 a.m., a black van stopped in front of the stall, and a few strong guys got off. They walked straight to me and ordered 4 bowls of egg noodles and youtiao. Zhang Xiaobai, At 5:28 a.m., I pulled out a sharp kitchen knife from under the breakfast stall and cut the green onions while the guys were chatting. Zhang Xiaobai, After Zhang Xiaobai finished laughing, he realized that no one was laughing and was looking at him instead. He could not help but grin and ask carefully, "Isn't it funny?" Xening felt that her fist was itching again, and she needed Zhang Xiaobai to stop the itch. Ever since Lu Pinru arrived at the private room, she had asked the service staff for a basin of water and had been carefully wiping her wardrobe. She calmly glanced at Zhang Xiaobai and sighed helplessly. "Zhang Xiaobai, when will you turn over a new leaf?" Zhang Xiaobai felt that he had been greatly insulted. "I've been an A since I was young. How can I turn over a new leaf?" Then, Zhang Xiaobai looked at Tan Ran, who had not spoken much. Tan Ran looked at Zhang Xiaobai's encouraging gaze, gritted his teeth, clapped his hands, and said with a chuckle, "It's so funny. Big brother Zhang Xiaobai is so great." Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 132. Lin Yuan looked at their interactions and found that they had a really good relationship. On the way here, Lin Yuan still remembered Lu Pinru whispering to him, "Xening and Zhang Xiaobai are actually a couple." This truly shocked Lin Yuan. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like they were in love. Other people's partners were all abusing dogs everywhere. Xening and Zhang Xiaobai's partner was Xening abusing Zhang Xiaobai everywhere. Soon, the food was served, and Lin Yuan simply took off his mask. He couldn't eat without taking off his mask. After Lin Yuan took off his mask, Genius quickly removed its tool transformation state and turned into a 2-tailed white cat spirit beast. Genius nestled in Lin Yuan's arms and meowed twice before saying in a childish voice, "Lin Yuan, I want to eat with you." Genius's childish voice sounded a little aggrieved. When Lin Yuan heard Genius's aggrieved childish voice, he knew that Genius was throwing a tantrum. When Lin Yuan heard Genius's aggrieved childish voice, He knew that Genius was throwing a tantrum. Ever since Lin Yuan had enhanced Chimey, Genius, Blackie, and the blue flash purple butterfly to the legend quality, he had been enhancing the Jasmine Lily. He had evolved the fantasy breed Jasmine Lily from Bronze X to Silver. It could be said that he had been really busy for the past 2 months, and he had even squeezed out his sleeping time. Genius had been observing Lin Yuan's hard work during this period. Therefore, Genius didn't pester Lin Yuan and quietly accompanied him. While Lin Yuan was enhancing the Fae, Genius was quietly squatting beside Lin Yuan and wagging its 2 small tails. Genius, which required Lin Yuan to play with it every day, had been feeling very aggrieved during this period. Just as Lin Yuan was about to give Genius a small bowl and pick some food, Genius quickly used its small claws to gently push Lin Yuan's face and continued speaking in a childish voice. No, Genius needs Lin Yuan to feed it personally. Genius will only be able to eat if Lin Yuan feeds it personally. Lin Yuan couldn't help but smile. Every time Genius acted coquettishly, Lin Yuan couldn't do anything about it and could only raise his hands in surrender. Lin Yuan picked up his chopsticks and was about to give Genius a piece of red braised meat when he noticed that the Extreme Guild Club's quartet was looking at him. In fact, when Lin Yuan took off his mask, the Extreme Guild Club's quartet subconsciously looked at him. In the Guild Alliance, the Extreme Guild Club's quartet did not feel anything when Lin Yuan wore a mask. Now that they had become teammates for this trip, they were naturally curious about what was behind Lin Yuan's mask. The moment Lin Yuan took off his mask, he gave the Extreme Guild Club's quartet the impression of a sunny and clean youth. However, when Lin Yuan saw Genius' lips suddenly curl up, he was truly amazed by the Extreme Guild Club's quartet. Lin Yuan could not help but laugh when he saw the 4 members of the Extreme Guild Club staring at him stupidly. "Why can't you recognize me after I take off my mask?" Zhang Xiaobai let out a few strange cries and carefully looked at Lin Yuan, then at Tan Ran. Finally, he looked at the plate on the table and at himself from the reflection of the plate. He said very seriously, "All right, I admit that Lin Yuan is the most handsome, but I can rank second, and Tan Ran is third." Lu Pinru rolled her eyes mercilessly. Sure enough, once Zhang Xiaobai became serious, what he said would definitely not be serious. Xening felt her fist itch even more. She picked up a bun and stuffed it into Zhang Xiaobai's mouth. "Hurry up and eat a bun. Let me see if this bun can block your mouth." The Extreme Guild Club's 4-man squad was only amazed by Lin Yuan's appearance, but what really surprised them was Lin Yuan's age. Previously, Xening felt that Lin Yuan had a youthful aura, but she did not expect him to actually be a young youth. Tan Ran might have a baby face and looked very young, but Tan Ran was already 22 years old, while Lin Yuan was a true youth. At this age, he could release a silver healing ability without summoning a Fae. At the same time, he was also a creation master, which showed how powerful his talent was. Since the start of the meal, Tan Ran had been looking at Genius with his head tilted. Genius was holding the meat that Lin Yuan fed it with its small claws and eating happily. When Genius saw that Tan Ran had been looking at it, it quickly ate the meat in its hands and licked its small claws. After looking at Tan Ran a few times, Genius felt that it was still the cutest, so it pounced into Lin Yuan's arms and acted like a spoiled child. Tan Ran looked at Lin Yuan with envy and said faintly, "Cats are the cutest. Cats are the cutest, but why is my Fae affinity not faded with cuteness?" When Zhang Xiaobai heard Tan Ran's words, he nearly choked on the steamed bun in his mouth. When he thought of Tan Ran's affinity, he quickly shook his head. This affinity was not just faded with cuteness. The meal was quickly finished, and the idle chatter at the dining table had shortened the distance between them, allowing Lin Yuan and the quartet to get familiar with each other. They were all young and like-minded. They might not be bosom friends, but they easily became friends. The endless forest stretched from the extreme north to the bitter cold land and the muddy swamp to the south. It had a very vast area. Large areas of the forest were connected together, forming a paradise for wild fays. The endless forest was connected to 13 major cities of the Radiance Federation. The 13 major cities of the Radiance Federation were all connected to the endless forest. At that moment, Lin Yuan and the quartet were heading to Ascending Dragon City, which was the closest to the royal capital. Millstone Town, which was at the border of Ascending Dragon City, was the closest to the Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's habitat. Therefore, Millstone Town was the most suitable place to set off. Millstone Town might be a town that belonged to Ascending Dragon City's sphere of influence. However, when they arrived at Millstone Town, Lin Yuan realized that it wasn't even 1/3 the size of the Xia region that he had previously lived in. Furthermore, Millstone Town was really far from the other counties of Ascending Dragon City. Even a bronze avian fae would need to fly for a long time. The reason for such a situation was ultimately due to the formation of Millstone Town. At first, Millstone Town was just adjacent to the Endless Forest, so many merchants had come to Millstone Town to do some supply trading. Slowly, it had formed a stable gathering place. After decades of development, many adventurers had settled down here, and Millstone Town had slowly formed. This Millstone Town was an adventurer's town at the edge of Ascending Dragon City that was embedded in the Endless Forest. Lin Yuan stood on the streets of Millstone Town and looked at the surrounding Millstone Town that was a little unreal due to the dark sky. When he heard the hawking and chatting with many adventurers, he couldn't help but sigh. Truly, the mountains and rivers are vast and the mortal world is full of smoke and fire. Lin Yuan and the quartet walked on the streets of Millstone Town and were preparing to buy some supplies. However, the people in Millstone Town, including Lin Yuan, didn't notice this tranquility. There was a faint crack in the sky, and there was a hidden dark red wave behind the crack. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Just as Lin Yuan was about to casually look around the stalls, he saw Zhang Xiaobai pulling him and speaking mysteriously. Lin Yuan, do you want to eat barbecue with me? This place's barbecue is really delicious. After saying that, Zhang Xiaobai pointed behind him. Lin Yuan was not hungry yet. He looked at the barbecue stall and then at the fruit stall next to him. I'm not hungry. You go ahead and eat. I'll buy some fruits here. Zhang Xiaobai patted Lin Yuan on the shoulder. Then wait for me for 10 minutes. I'll come to you after I buy the barbecue. After saying that, Zhang Xiaobai ran a few steps and came to the barbecue stall. He stretched his neck and shouted, "Boss, give me 30 skewers of kidney. I want it to be super unrivaled spicy." Lin Yuan's supplies had actually been prepared long ago. A very important part of going out on an adventure was the preparation of supplies. Since Lin Yuan had decided to go out on an adventure, everything was naturally prepared. Previously, the Moon Empress had given Lin Yuan 2 diamond Fey storage boxes. The leaf-shaped Fey storage box contained the flesh of various dimensional life forms, so Lin Yuan did not touch it. As for Chen Zhao's dark brown beetle-shaped Fey storage box, Lin Yuan tidied up the radiance dollars in the box and emptied a corner of the Fey storage box. He stored a lot of water and some food that was convenient for hunger. When adventuring in the wild and lacking food, there was still a way to solve it. In fact, killing a wild Fey could even drill wood to start a fire for a simple barbecue. However, it was difficult to persist in the wild without water. Some experienced adventurers knew that water in the wild could not be casually drunk unless it was a large body of water with living fish or mountain spring water. Drinking water indiscriminately might cause diarrhea, fever, poisoning, and other conditions. Such a situation might be even more fatal than being attacked by a Fey. Lin Yuan took 2 steps forward and walked to the stall beside him. Seeing that the fruits in front of him were very fresh, he thought it would be good to store some in the diamond Fey storage box. As Lin Yuan was picking fruits, he heard a middle-aged woman's voice. "Good baby, quickly choose a sugar figurine. Let this old grandpa knead it for you." Lin Yuan looked at the stall at the side. It was a stall that sold candy, and one could knead sugar figurines. The little boy, who was being carried by the middle-aged woman, said timidly to the old man kneading the sugar figurine, "Old grandpa, I want a sweet sugar figurine. Can you knead an elite fat yellow duck for me?" The old man selling the sugar figurine said with a benevolent smile, "Old grandpa needs a fat yellow duck the most. Grandpa likes to pinch fat yellow ducks. Grandpa will be done for you soon." The old man skillfully picked up a lump of maltose candy, and after a short while, a cute fat yellow duck was formed. Then he picked up a brush and dipped it in the sugar color. After a few strokes, a lifelike fat yellow duck appeared in the old man's hands. The little boy excitedly took the yellow duck and smiled happily. His eyes seemed to have stars in them. The middle-aged woman carried the little boy and was about to leave. The little boy in her arms said innocently, "Mommy, Mommy, the baby wants it." The middle-aged woman pinched the little boy's face helplessly, then pointed at the fat yellow duck in the little boy's hand. "I just bought a candy, man, and haven't eaten it yet. Why do you still want more?" The little boy was very persistent. He turned his small eyes and immediately kissed the middle-aged woman on the cheek. The middle-aged woman immediately smiled after being kissed by her child. She immediately paid the money and nodded in agreement. It was very simple. In just 1 or 2 minutes, the old man had made a big ball, which looked like a white quilt. The little boy held it in one hand and said to the fat yellow duck in the other, "Ducky, with the quilt, you won't feel cold at night." The child's words carried a hint of innocence. This fat yellow duck probably wouldn't feel cold even if it was winter with a quilt. Lin Yuan placed the fruits he bought into the dark brown beetle-shaped Fey storage box. The sky was like a shattered mirror, and the shattered night seeped out with a dark red luster. The dark red ripples with distorted energy tore open a huge hole in the night. Soon enough, a dark red crack that emitted strange energy formed in the sky. The instant this strange energy crack formed, a large number of alien insects frantically surged out from it. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.